So through recreation, huh?
We didn't have much going on.
I would like to call to order the August 10th, 2017 meeting of the Council Strategic Planning Committee. Let the record show roll call of members that all members are present with the exception of Councilman Joseph and Councilman Cagnalotti. Item number 2 is our invocation and pledge of allegiance. I'll ask everyone to please rise while we do that. Our invocation this afternoon will be led by Ms. Catherine Guppold. Catherine?
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you that you have brought us here tonight. You've given us safety. You've given us strength and health. We thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, and we pray that he would rule in our hearts and spirits as we go through this meeting tonight. We also pray for our nation, men and women all around the world that are protecting our nation and our freedoms, and we ask you to give them safety. We pray that everything will be done with a spirit of cooperation and listening to one another, that you give us understanding into the subjects that we're going to discuss tonight. We thank you for this opportunity to speak our minds about our community and our future. And thank you now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, what a wonderful, good-looking group we have here tonight. Give yourselves to start a hand. And let's remain that way, and this is obviously a very hot topic we're going to be addressing tonight. Civility needs to rule for the night. Before I get into the public comment period, which is item number 3, I just want to state, seated to my left is obviously Councilman Aaron Lawler. Y'all know him, doesn't require an introduction, but while I'm at it, to my right is Councilman Benny Johnson. Aaron, the reason I want to mention him is we are official timekeeper. So if you feel like you were cheated out of your time, don't throw anything at Dr. Sadley, throw it at Aaron. So that is item number 3, the public comment period. A few comments about that. If you haven't done it already, we usually say take it up to the secretary. That's been a change, sort of optional, actually, amongst chairmen of whether they want a secretary to be here. And, you know, we have to pay these guys money to do that and so forth. Councilman Dawson decided a while back, if you don't want that, they can rewatch the film to do the minutes and so forth. And so that seems to be working, I guess, okay with this committee. We'll keep with that tonight. That means that you bring your card directly up to me. Don't be afraid. I don't bite. You can bring it up here, and I guarantee you, you'll be given your, if you're representing an organization tonight, when we put that into the record, it'll be 10 minutes. Y'all that are, the 3 organizations that will be speaking tonight know that because we've been in contact via email and so forth where I've indicated the same. That's a discretion by the chair. Our bylaws provides for if you're speaking for a bigger group so that the rest of the public that's going to get 3 minutes doesn't feel slighted, regardless of whether you're a red and a green card, and I'll address that again in a minute. You're speaking for more than just yourself. And that's why our cards have always had this thing about who you're speaking for, and I notice the new card no longer has that. But I really think it's a change that we ought to go back to. So it wouldn't really be a change, but we ought to go back to that because I think that our bylaws does address that. So we're going to do 10 minutes for ABA, 10 minutes for, and everybody knows that's A Better Ascension. We're going to do 10 minutes for A Better Ascension says who, question mark. And then we have a third organization, which is the ARPEC. That's the Ascension Republican Parish Executive Committee. Their president will be speaking tonight. It's an organization that represents over 25,000 or so voters, I believe, in the parish that are registered Republicans. Now, before anybody throws anything at me, the Democrats are welcome here. The Libertarian Party and other and so forth, just haven't heard from them. It's that simple. But another thing, this is not the last opportunity. I think our chairman exhibited wisdom by saying he's going to have a series of meetings beyond this, okay, called the Committee of the Whole. Again, seated to my left is the vice chair for that, Aaron Lawler, and the chair, I believe, is Travis Turner. And those meetings will be announced. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, 2 will be on the East Bank. So if you're timid tonight to talk and you feel like you've heard something you now want to address later, you can come to one of those 2 meetings. Or you can go over to Sunshine Bridge like we all do once a month, and there'll be one in the West Bank as well in Donaldsonville at the courthouse. Okay? The cards again, let me remind everyone, if you haven't filled one out, while we're still on item 3, please do so. You have to bring it on up here. You can give it to either Aaron or myself. And in the interest of fairness, I'm going to oscillate between red and green cards. You now know the red cards are for people. Sharon, if you're coming up to speak, the red cards are for people who are against the proposals and the amendments of the homeroom charter that ABA seeks. And the green cards are for people who support what it is they want to do in terms of changing our local government. Okay? If you made a mistake, we'll probably know by when you start talking, but and if you want to adjust that, you've got a chance to do so. I do have one still white card because the individual expressed to me, and we're going to do that person as a leadoff hitter who says he's neutral. And that's okay. It's America. So I'm looking forward to hearing his remarks equally as well. One more housekeeping. There's no chair's addition, so we could move right into 4. But before we do that, item 5, for those who are going to stay, and I would suspect there'll be a mass exodus when item 4 is completed, the ABA issue, I'll call it, is an improvement of the Land Development Code's drainage impact studies, where we were going to continue our discussions we had last time, this committee did anyway, on altering the Land Development Code on drainage impact studies. At 4:26 this afternoon, I learned from our parish secretaries, indirectly from the administration, directly, that would be from Ken Dawson, okay? Not to be confused with Chairman Bill Dawson, okay? That they're not going to agree to my request to have Mr. Sanji from CSRS, our engineering review agency, and Mr. Jerome Fournier, our planning director, come and testify to us tonight. The reason given to me, and I'll be honest, since it happened at 4:26, I'm still looking into it. I'm not going to go on record to say I believe it or discount it right now, but it is a little suspicious to me. I will say that. And because I was given a copy of we recently signed, if you're not aware of it, or we're about to sign, an agreement with CSRS, which Mr. Sanji is a member of that company. Actually, it's with HNTB, but I think the 2 of them there, and correct me if I'm wrong, are partnered. And that probably creates a little bit of a conflict of interest, although I think we could have gotten someone else. But nonetheless, not only that, it's a situation where we're paying them now to do a floodplain management study. And while in my mind, the problem I'm having is that's entirely different than alterations of our land development codes as it relates directly to drainage impact studies per se. The administration is trying to convince me, they have underlined certain passages in that RFP in yellow, that that's not the case. But I have no witnesses, so unless this committee, gentlemen, objects in any way, we'll be getting out here a little bit earlier because we will be passing on item number 5. Is that okay with everybody up here? All right, and item number 4, what we all really came here for tonight, is a discussion of A Better Ascensions. You're probably going to hear it as abbreviation throughout the night, ABA, proposed amendments to the homeroom charter, which is the abolition of the parish president's position and replacing of it with a parish manager style of government. Now, we have quite a few speakers here this evening, and I view that as a very positive thing. I will say this, anybody that can't stay, including members up here besides me, I'll stay if y'all want to be to midnight, but I certainly understand that, okay? And I will not say anything about anybody that has to leave because they have another, up here, sir, another commitment and so forth. And another good reason for that is that this is a discussion-only item. There will be no action from this committee tonight in terms of a motion or vote that would say, you know, we recommend this or that to the council. And again, I think that's fine because the bottom line is we're going to have these meetings that I'm committee of the whole that Mr. Travis Turner and Mr. Lawler are going to oversee. So any questions before I get started? All right. Seeing none, here we go, guys. We will have the public comment period now. Again, 3 organizations, 10 minutes each, followed by 3 minutes of the individuals until we exhaust all the speakers. We will then open this up to question and answer, Q&A, by the committee up here. That means several of you, 1 or more, maybe hopefully not all of you, will be called back to the microphone if it strikes a chord with someone that we want further clarification and so forth as we begin this process of due diligence about whether or not we want to alter our form of government. All right, without further ado, our first speaker this afternoon, speaking against, someone handed me a card at the last minute, I stuck it on top of my pile. Speaking for the ABA proposal tonight is their spokesperson, Mr. Scott D. Johnson. And I would ask you, Scott, as well as all the other speakers tonight, when you come up, at the risk of being redundant, repeat your name and say where you live in the parish for the record. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Scott Johnson. I actually do not live in the parish. I actually reside in Evans, Georgia. And I have been asked to come tonight on behalf of A Better Ascension, just to give you a little bit of my background and expertise in this particular area. Just to introduce myself, I am the county administrator in Columbia County, Georgia. I'm going to talk about Columbia County in just a few minutes. I've been in that role for the past 9 years. Prior to that, I retired from the Georgia State Patrol with 21 years of service to that organization.
Excuse me, Mr. Johnson.
Yes,
I've just been informed by our timekeeper he didn't hit the button, so he's keeping you up here. Would you like notifications at 5 minutes or something like that?
I think I'll be okay, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
I apologize for the interruption, and Mr.
We
Timekeeper,
don't have a 10-minute button.
give him back the time that I just interrupted him with.
I've watched it. Thank you, sir.
Proceed, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Just a little bit more about my background. I do hold 2 undergraduate degrees with honors and also a Master's of Public Administration. I am the president-elect of the Georgia City County Managers Association in Georgia and a faculty member of the Carl Vinson Institute of Government at the University of Georgia. I'm also the managing partner of Exceeding Excellence, which is a government consulting group that does exactly that. We work on efficiencies in government really all over the Southeast. A little bit about Columbia County, which is my hometown, where I'm from. It's really a lot like Ascension Parish. You'll see a lot of similarities as far as the size of our budget, the size of our the number of employees we have, and it's an affluent community much like this one. And I can say that my time at Ascension has been very nice. I'm very pleased with what I see here. You have a very nice place to call home. We're located just west of Augusta, Georgia, the home of the Masters. For those of you that are golf fans, we're right next door. Columbia County is the 28th fastest growing county in the entire nation. We have about $200 million in annual budgets, if you combine all those together, and about $1 billion in assets. We do operate under a commissioner-administrator form of government. We've done that since 1990. Prior to that, it was just a commission form of government, and the commissioners made up committees, and those committees would then supervise department heads. Under this form of government, I serve as the chief executive officer of the government, and I report to the entire Board of Commissioners. Over 70% of the governments in Georgia are operated under this particular style of government. One of the things about Columbia County that I would note, hopefully if you would research it, you would see, is we do have a culture of inclusion, and we work very hard to make sure that our citizens are involved in all processes of our government, and I am held accountable for those particular things. To give you just another point of reference, we are very proud to boast a AAA bond rating. We're the only county outside of Metro Atlanta in the state of Georgia that has a AAA bond rating. And we also have an ISO rating. For those of you familiar with the ISO ratings, they range from 1 being the best and 10 being the worst. We have a countywide 1, and we are one of 247 out of 48,000 departments in the entire nation that have an ISO rating of 1. We're very proud of that. We have won the Government Financial Officers Association Excellence in Accounting Award for 19 straight years. I noticed that your government has also won that award for many years, and congratulations for that. That is certainly a great accomplishment. And we have been named the best of in several national publications. Best place to live, best place to retire, best place to raise a family, in again, very, very high-ranking national publications. Evans, Georgia, and Columbia County, Georgia is really a destination, and for those of you that have never visited there, I would invite you all to come to see it, because we really have a great place to live. I want to talk a little bit about the role of county administrator and what I do on a day-to-day basis. Administrators in the state of Georgia are professional and credentialed. We have to go through a process, a vetting process of our credentials. Most of those, if not all, are degreed. We do have several certified professional managers in the state of Georgia that serve in those roles. And this is what we went to school for. This is what we decided to make our career, was local government. And we do have those credentials behind our names, and we are, hopefully, we're doing the job to be able to support those. We report to the entire elected body, and I think that's important for people to know. In Columbia County, we have 5 commissioners. We have 4 district commissioners and a chairman who is voted at large. So every person has at least 2 representatives on that 5-member commission. They have their individual district commissioner and they have a chairman. All 5 of those are part-time commissioners. They all have other jobs and other things they do, and they're serving their community through the elected office. And the day-to-day activities of the executive branch of the government are given to me for my responsibility, and I can assure you that I'm held to a very high standard to make sure that it's done the way they want to do it. I work for that entire Board of Commissioners. I was told very early in my career, don't learn to count to 3, but to count to 5. And we do that to make sure that the entire representation of the government, the entire representation of the citizens is taken into effect. I am apolitical by code, which means I cannot participate in any political campaign. I cannot participate, I can't have a sign in my yard. I can't contribute to any candidate or another candidate. And quite frankly, if I had to run for my job, if I had to run for office for my job, I would not do that. I don't think I'm suited to be an elected official. I think that I am better off being the servant that I am in a different role, in the professional role that I serve. And I will tell you that my commissioners are all very successful businessmen, and they all have very successful lives outside of their political role. Because of that, I have no agenda. I simply see to it that the rules of the commission and the wishes of the commission are carried out, regardless of if I like it or not. I've often made the joke that if the commission decided to paint our courthouse Pepto-Bismol pink, that I'd be ordering paint on Wednesday morning. That's just my job. I don't have a chance to question that. I just do exactly what the majority of that commission tells me to do. That being said, I do have a code of ethics that I go by, and they go by as well. And that code of ethics does not allow me to play favoritism amongst my board. It does not allow them to push me politically one way or the other. I am very simply the go-between between the staff and the commission at large. Being that I'm the go-between, everything that comes down from the commission goes through my office, and everything that comes up through the staff goes through my office. That way we don't have individual commissioners directing staff members as to what they should or should not do. One thing about my position is I can be replaced immediately without any kind of election. I serve at the pleasure of the board. I do have a contract that has a clause for a severance if I'm fired without cause, but I very simply serve at the board, serve at the wishes of the board. Again, jokingly I say, but it's not really a joke, that I'm 3 votes away from losing my job every other Tuesday. But they wouldn't have to wait to Tuesday. They could call a special meeting just to get rid of me if they decided to. That's one thing that I think keeps county administrators and county managers in check, is the fact that you have to do the will of your board. If you're not doing the will of your board, you're not doing the will of the people, you will no longer have a job. And that's something that we're very keen on and make sure that we take care of. I wanted to just touch briefly, being a professional manager and doing this for a living, on how to operate an award-winning county. And I know that Ascension Parish has had your fair share of those. One thing is to be proactive. I'm responsible in the code for multi-year budgets. We have to have extensive capital plans. We have a growth management plan in place that takes us all the way to 2035. That is a document that I worked on with the help of the input of the citizens through public meetings that basically tells us where our zoning will be, where our roads are going to be expanded, what construction is going to be in this area or that area, where subdivisions will be or not be, where activity centers will be, where additional parks will go. That plan was put into place. It is a living document that does change from time to time, but it's a document that was put in place at the request of our commission with the input of our citizens. In addition to that, I think you have to plan for that future with the community involvement. I think we do a really good job of doing that. We're also transparent. I know that everybody understands the Freedom of Information Act, and they understand open records and open meetings. Sometimes that's very difficult in government when you're trying to conduct your business, but at the end of the day, it's the business of the people, and we have to act in an open government, very transparent. We do that on a regular basis. We view our citizens in Columbia County as customers. We refer to them as such. They are. We are there to serve them. The primary role of local government is to provide services to the citizens for the most efficient way possible, in the most efficient way and cheapest way possible. And we try to do that in Columbia County. I've often said that you can't run government like a business, although I've heard many people say you need to run it like a business. But what I can say is you can run it business-like, and that's what we do. We look at the bottom line. The reason you can't run government like a business is because we're not in the business to make profit. Business is. If you're not in the business to make profit, then you will be out of business soon. In government, we are in the business of providing the most services we can for the lowest amount of money we can, and to make sure that everybody in our community is safe and has everything they need to be a part of that community. So we work really hard to do that. So in closing, I would like to say thank you to this committee. I understand there will be people on both sides of this issue. There will be people that call me the carpetbagger. I can assure you that I'm not from the north. I am straight up from Georgia. And even though I'm from the outside, I'm not some hired gun. I've not been paid to come here. I was simply asked to come because somebody realized that Columbia County government was an award-winning government, and asked that I would be asked if I would be a part of just explaining what we do. And clearing that with my chairman, and also on behalf of the Georgia City County Managers Association, I was willing to do that, just to make sure that people had both sides of it, to understand really what a county manager does. We are servants. We do work at the will of the board, at the pleasure of the board, but we work very hard to do that. One thing that I would leave you with is the great thing about us being in this particular role is I don't have to live in this community. I could be hired to come live in this community, and then I would be part of this community, and I would run it to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and thank you for being a good shepherd, good steward, I should say, of our time this evening. Our next speaker this afternoon is going to be the spokesperson for A Better Ascension for who? Question mark, Mr. Clint Klintma.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Chairman, for giving me an opportunity to speak tonight. I'm representing a group of citizens opposed to the agenda of ABA, A Better Ascension. I'm here as a citizen. I'm here as a voter. I'm here as a taxpayer. I'm not being paid by any PAC money to push any agenda. And why is that relevant? ABA organization is registered as Secretary of State as a nonprofit organization. Fact, looks like a PAC, acts like a PAC, because it is a political action committee, a PAC. I hope someone will step up and file an ethics complaint against this organization with the Board of Ethics. When any person or organization pushes for transparency and accountability, you can't hide who funds you and register your organization under a false pretense. Your argument is mute. So let's look at qualifications. There are two aspects which I would like to touch on. First is the voter's qualifications, and the second is the council manager qualifications. As a voter, I get to talk to the candidate. I get to listen to their ideas. I get to look into their eyes, see what's in their heart. I get to ask some tough questions about the problems here in Ascension. Are they passionate? Are they tough when it comes to getting things done? And not studies, projects. I want to know in this organization of ABA, in Rotary, in the Chamber of Commerce, who is more qualified than me to elect who governs me? Right now, there's a 5-person selection committee which is ABA is proposing. Includes the following. The council shall appoint 2 persons, 1 person from the West Bank of recognized racial descent, one person from the 10 largest employers in Ascension Parish, or 1 person from Rotary. Chamber of Commerce gets 2 picks, and the superintendent of our school board, who if refuses, the chamber gets the 3rd pick. Now, our superintendent, David Alexander, is also a chamber member. So, actually, the chamber gets 3 picks. Now, I'm not sure why the school board or the superintendent is getting involved in parish politics. Maybe they should issue a statement about their involvement in this process. As a taxpayer, I want to know that my taxes that I pay into the school board and to the school system are used to educate our kids, not play politics. If ABA passes this agenda, I just need to figure out what club I need to join to take part in my government. Rotary or the chamber. Now, I've been a chamber member, and I would never, and I mean never, take away someone's right to vote. You see, when you take the citizens out of the equation, it's no longer we the people. It now becomes the few and the powerful to make our political decisions for us. This is the reason our parish got away from the police jury form of government and changed to a better system of representation. Has it been perfect? No. Is politics perfect? No. But a system of checks and balances and dual representation where the citizens can hold their elected officials accountable through the voting process is a good system. I analyzed the proposed charter changes, and when I tell you it creates a dictator who will not answer to the citizens, you are forming a bad system. Remember, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Let me give you an example. You do a nationwide search. You get a person who meets the specified qualifications. He or she uproots their family. This person is here for a job, a paycheck. He or she does not love our parish. This person doesn't care who the citizens and who lives here. Let me explain what is important to this person. A paycheck. This person who is put into this position answers to the 6 councilmen to keep his or her paycheck and the buyout clause in the contract and the few powerful people that created and put him into this position. Right now, this administration and council has the power to find the most qualified manager in the nation, right now. But this is not the objective of ABA. The objective is to take citizens out of the electing a parish president and reducing the power to the council, reducing the power of the council to a single person who is not accountable to the people of our parish. Simply put, a dictator. And now, let's talk about the qualifications of the council manager. He has to have a master's of public administration or a master's in business administration with no less than 5 years' experience in a city, parish, or county at a managerial position. Where's the degree for caring for the people that you represent? How can this person relate to the struggles that our citizens have with traffic and drainage? He or she does not know the families in Sanamon and around the parish that lost their homes from the flood. He or she hasn't talked to the families that live off of 73, Perkins, and 42 to understand their frustrations with traffic and development. He or she has no love for the parish that we call home. Now, this is for me personally. I, under no circumstance, will give up my right to vote who governs me. This country was founded on representation. From the calls of Griffin Wharf in the Boston Harbor, no taxation without representation. Men and women have died protecting our rights, and men and women have died to get the right to vote. And like other citizens in Ascension Parish, I don't take that lightly. Now, ABA will argue, well, it works just like the school board. Well, this is an apples to orange comparison. Ditches are not classrooms, asphalt is not textbooks, and greedy consultants are not teachers. The school board in East Baton Rouge and other parishes are set up similar. How's that working out? A better example is the East Ascension Drainage Board, which is nearly identical. 10 councilmen who reside on the east bank of the Mississippi River, with Bill Rue as the council manager. Since the Great Flood of 2016, not a single project has been completed. We are no more prepared today to fight the flood waters than we were before the Great Flood. Then they say, well, it's not the system, because it isn't the system. Why doesn't ABA want the city of Gonzales to change its form of government? Because it's working. What about the sheriff's department? Maybe that's too political. Maybe we need that position appointed. Why is Livingston Parish outpacing Ascension Parish government in getting projects completed under a parish president and council government? Why can they make it work? It's because it's not the system, but it's the people you elect. Elect better people, get better results. A better example used is Fallujah County, Florida, where Daytona Beach is located and Jen Denon is the county manager to prove their point of better government. The Daytona Beach News Journal, March 11, 2017 headline, Sheriff Mike Chitwood urges Volusia Council to fire County Manager Jen Denon. All elected officials, this is a quote from the article, our elected officials act without consulting or even notifying the Sheriff Chitwood, soliciting his input, and announcing their intentions on the public agenda. Still think your county council wants or needs your involvement in your government? Here's another statement. Our home rule charter has many important benefits, but make no mistake, it is tailor-made to permit powerful external forces to sway the system. Why do you think the same faces appear on the Charter Review Commission time and time and time again? Again, this proves it's not the system, but it's the people you elect or put in power. Elect better people, get better results. Now, I know that most of us feel like parish government has hit rock bottom, but that is no reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Elect the right person of integrity to parish presidency and to the council, and all negativity turns around to something positive. Things will get accomplished. People will be represented, and more importantly, you will not lose your rights. These are the reasons I won't vote for ABA. Desperate times call for desperate measures. But that is no reason to move back to a police jury system and eliminate our right to vote who governs us. Thank you.
Point of order before the next one.
Chair recognizes Mr. Lawler.
Assuming this is RPEC, I do have a question about RPEC. I don't know who's representing them, but if it can be answered. Did RPEC take a vote on this issue? Did the executive board? Okay. And what was the outcome of that vote? Okay.
Our next speaker this afternoon is Mr. Lawler has let the cat out of the bag now. The RPEC, that's the Ascension Republican Parish Executive Committee. Their president, duly elected, Catherine Guppold, will be the spokesperson. Ms. Guppold, you have 10 minutes also.
Thank you, Chairman Satterley, for allowing this first public discussion on this issue. I speak on behalf of the Ascension Republican Parish Executive Committee, or RPEC. We are the official arm of the Republican Party in Ascension Parish and represent 26,926 registered Republicans as of Monday this week. Our concerns and questions are many. After my presentation, I will give committee members a copy of my comments with questions bolded should you wish to address them directly. We go on record in opposition to changes recommended by the recently formed group of business and corporate interests known as A Better Ascension, funded from inside and outside of the parish. Why did A Better Ascension register as a 501c4 organization and not a political action committee? The stated purpose on their website is political, to change the charter of Ascension Parish. This would be a proposition on the ballot. Was it because they do not have to disclose who gives money to their organization under a 501c4? Can our community expect transparent and accountable government from a group of people who do not want to be transparent and accountable to the public about their finances? What is A Better Ascension's fundraising budget to market their ideas, and how will these dollars be used? Will they continue to pull the wool over the people's eyes? Why are we only looking at getting rid of the parish president? Why is A Better Ascension not looking to support qualified candidates for the office of parish president? Is it not more important at this time to have a strong leader, trusted and elected by the people, to provide leadership for the council in addressing the corruption and infrastructure crises our parish faces? Has this group considered promoting term limits in their proposed changes to the charter? Why isn't A Better Ascension requesting the council to convene a charter commission to consider their proposed changes along with other interested citizens in a public format, not behind closed doors, already provided by the charter. Has the frustration of the public and the shadow cast on our parish over the indictment of our current parish president given rise to an effort to usurp the authority of the council and change the charter to do away with the office of parish president? Previously, Ascension was governed by a police jury system. Business interests, including the chamber, in the 90s led the effort to place the charter form of government on the ballot with a parish president. Those same interests want to now go back to the police jury system with more influence from another unelected board to select potential parish managers to be recommended to the parish council. Does this proposal take away the right of citizens to choose and vote for a parish president, for administrator? Yes, it does. The most important reason the RPEC cannot support this proposal is this one fact. The people will no longer vote for a parish president. 6 council members will decide who will administer our government and implement their decisions. The council will concede a very large amount of their authority to the proposed parish manager, who will be determined in a large part by persons recommended by an unelected board of self-appointed members. Talk about corruption. This is an end run around the people. Critical checks and balances on the executive branch are gone with this proposal. Was it not 8 members of the present council who endorsed now indicted President Matassa? Do you really believe that the people of our parish want to give up their right to elect the parish president and have this council appoint a parish president? The problem is not our form of government. It is the character of the people we are electing. Noah Webster said, "If citizens neglect their duty and place unprincipled men in office, the government will soon be corrupted. Laws will be made not for public good so much as for selfish purposes. Corrupt and incompetent men will be appointed to execute laws. The public revenues will be squandered on unworthy men, and the rights of the citizens will be violated and disregarded. Just attend a planning and zoning monthly meeting." This is where we are in Ascension Parish today. A Better Ascension's proposal does not address the 25 years of overdevelopment without adequate infrastructure that even continues today. A reckless disregard for our laws related to the development in our master plan contributes to the destruction of the quality of life in Ascension Parish. 25 years ago, the budget was around $25 million. Today, it is over $125 million. We pay for studies and hire engineers. But what is there to show for the dollars we have been giving to the government? A master's degree will not remove corruption from our government. The people must choose men who rule in the fear of God, able men, men of truth, hating covetousness, who will not take bribes, because a gift blinds the eyes of the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. Voters need to be well-informed and active. Benjamin Rush said, "Every citizen must watch for the state as if its liberties depended upon his vigilance alone." Not only does the RPEC, Ascension Republican Parish Executive Committee, oppose these charter changes, but we are also committed to fighting the business and corporate interests who are attempting to take over our local government through a better Ascension. We are committed to searching for and supporting qualified candidates with a clear vision for our future, who have the character to work towards limited government, lower taxes, and more freedom for the people to express their voice in how they are governed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gupple. Just a minute here. I just want to note that there was a little over 3 minutes, 3 minutes and 17 seconds
How did you do the vote?
left on the clock. And so we thank you, like the other speakers.
Is that how it's
for-
usually done?
Excuse me, for being a good shepherd of our time, Ms. Gupple.
I have a point of order.
Okay, so everybody has a copy of this. Chair recognizes
I have a major issue right now.
you throwing away her speech? Chair recognizes Mr. Lawler.
Ms. Gopel, how was the vote taken with RPEC? I'm a Republican in Ascension Parish.
I called each member.
Did you tell them it was a vote, and is that how votes are usually taken?
I told them I wanted an up or down vote about a better ascension, what they knew, if they wanted to support it or oppose it.
Is that how votes are usually taken at the executive committee at RPEC,
If
over the
we held a
phone?
meeting, we take a vote, but it was open.
I find that very disingenuous. Us as a council would never call each other and poll each other and ask for a vote. I feel like I've been deceived. The reason I asked about that, I don't want to have somebody coming up from the Democratic Party, from the Libertarian Party, claiming to represent them, and then speaking on their behalf without actually representing that party. An executive committee meets and votes in person. I ask, has RPEC ever had a up or down vote on a serious issue such as this over the phone?
I'm going to interrupt here. Mr. Lawler, I believe Ms. Guppilt has answered your question about how it was done. We don't need to be redundant there, but I'll just say this. You said that the council never calls.
No, we don't vote by phone.
But I have the floor, Mr. Lawler. I mean, you tore this up before you even asked her question. How fair is that? Now, we call all the time, myself included. However, we are governed by law. That law says in open meetings that we can talk to each other up to 5. There are 11 council districts. When you talk to the 6th member, and not even in a formal setting at a meeting, as Mr. Lawler's talking about, but over the phone, whatever, you can violate walk-in quorums. Okay? So, unless we want to call Ms. Guppilt, and I'm not prepared as chair to do that, a liar about how she came about to represent the 26,000, I copied 926 individuals as of Monday, I believe you said, that your organization represents, I don't think that'd be wise on our part. And I would ask that, shy of point of orders, if there really is a point of order, that we hold our comments to the very, very end. I'm certainly not going to tear up anyone's testimony until I hear from everyone. Our next speaker is Mr. Stephen Crow. I'd indicated he does not have a red or green card because he tells me he's going to be neutral. Mr. Crow.
It's just a general statement. I have personal relationships.
Excuse me, Mr. Crow, are you a resident of the parish?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Please say where you live. Thank you,
I
sir.
live on, at 7154 Highway 44, Gonzales, Louisiana. I have a personal relationship with many of the citizens that comprise the Better Ascension's Board of Directors and consider them mentors. They have been active members in the parish on numerous occasions and in times of need, such as natural disasters, assist and support the residents of Ascension. Their passion and love for our community is portrayed in their actions. A Better Ascension is proposing a solution to a problem that time and effort with a focus of
Excuse me,
benefiting their
excuse me,
neighbors
Mr.
in
Crow,
Ascension Parish.
and I'm going to give you your time back for interrupting because I don't believe in that. That's a bullying tactic, and that's not my intention. But you've already said enough to indicate to me that you're a green card. Would you like to change that now?
I haven't said anything in any direction.
Sir, I would respectfully disagree with you. It's no problem, but I'm just saying that you're saying that you know these people, they're good people. We're not going to have people
I
come
didn't
up here
say
and
I
not.
agree with their proposal. I've said nothing. I've just said I know
Okay,
these people
sir,
and they're good people.
just be careful, okay? Just want to be fair.
I'm
That's
being
all we're trying to do here is be
careful.
fair
I
to
haven't
everyone.
No, I mean, I'm
Continue,
saying.
continue, and Mr. Timekeeper, please give the gentleman his time back.
All right. A Better Ascension is proposing a solution to a problem that time and effort with a focus of benefiting their neighbors in Ascension Parish. Just as we all do, when faced with a challenge, they sought the counsel of friends, family, and colleagues. Through such gatherings, an idea developed into the proposed charter amendments that have been posted on the internet. Regardless of one's sentiment, there is no reason for the character attacks their families have had to endure. We as a society are better than that, and I would like to encourage civility through the process. I would also like to ask the council to leave the decision to the voters and not let their personal stance on the matter suppress the will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. That last statement again is what they're seeking to do to put us in the ballot, so to me that's support. But we're going to leave you as a white card, all right? And thank you for your testimony. So if it's a white card, I'm gonna arbitrarily pick a color here, and we're gonna now alternate between for and against until we exhaust all the speakers. And so our first speaker in support, a green card, would be Mr. Steve Anderson. Steve, are you?
And blind. First, I'd like to say that I did vote for Clint. And he's a friend of mine, and nothing I say will ever change that. Good afternoon. Thank you for the meeting and my chance to express my opinion. About 6 weeks ago, I learned of the ABA from a friend of mine. He educated me on the specific plan to the possible change to a home rule charter from a PP to a PA form of government. I thought about our current system of government and remembered my first vote ever as a Ascension Parish resident. It was on the police jury to a parish president vote, which I did vote for the parish president system. Just like the change back then, the ABA plan now makes sense, if for no other reason that the current system is not working. Has the cause of the flooding to my son and my 86-year-old dad's home been addressed or made less likely to happen? The answer is no. Do you as a councilman or constituents feel more or less confident that the parish and the parish president have done all they can to address the problem? What will happen during the next 2 months of prime hurricane season if we get close to or as much rain as we had in August? All it takes is a tropical storm to stall off our coast, as Allison did to Houston several years back, and I know everybody remembers that. And I was in Ascension in the flood of '83. All or even most of the drainage ditches cleaned out. Who is ultimately responsible for that task? And what's most important, is there a written plan to complete that task? Are we ready for another 2016 event? I don't want to get into the roads and sewer systems. We're so far behind to that compared to other places. Something's got to change. We now have a lame duck president and are stuck in a leadership vacuum there. I support the ABA for the following reasons. I can personally vouch for the integrity and motives of the board members that I know personally. I do not know all the board members. I did attend that secret meeting at Calico's. I saw the presentation. I had my questions answered. I'm only one vote. Our parish president, who I'm assuming is not even, I haven't seen him on TV, hadn't seen him at any single meeting, anything, and this kind of seems like an important committee meeting to me, but hey, I just don't want to get in this situation to where if we make a mistake in 2020 with the next parish president, as history has shown it can happen, that we got to wait till 2024 to do something about it. And it's a shame that somebody is indicted and everybody is innocent until proven guilty, but it's a shame that we have no representation from our president and we can't terminate him, I guess, without some sort of recall. So anyway, I do appreciate your time, and I just would like to encourage my Representative Dempsey Lambert to at least put this on the ballot and let the citizens decide what form of government they want. And just like, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I apologize for the momentary pauses, but as chair, I'm trying to take some notes so that when we have Q&A, we can address people's concerns directly. A red card, our next speaker. A little trouble with the handwriting here. Is it Sharon Landers, maybe? Is there a Sharon Landers? Oh, Sanders. Sharon, I know you. Apologize for my inability. I'm probably one of these guys that I don't support not using cursive writing anymore, that we should go to what they're doing in some of the schools anyway. But
I apologize for my writing.
Well, you should have been a doctor because you have the handwriting of one. And so I'm stereotyping myself for anybody that says I made a stereotypic remark. Ms. Sanders, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, committee. I'm Sharon Sanders. I live on White Oak Drive in Prairieville. John Adams, the second president and father of the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps, studied all of the forms of government in the world, even back to the time of ancient Greeks and Romans. And he concluded that the best form of government was one which had 3 branches that acted as checks and balances on each other. After reading extensively about John Adams, I know that if he were here tonight, he would not approve of the proposed amendment by the ABA, nor of their lack of transparency. They should provide the people a list of their funders. The proposed amendment to the Ascension Home Charter by the ABA, A Better Ascension, would take away one of our local checks and balances, that is, the parish president position. I am against the ABA proposed amendment to the home charter, and I ask you to vote against putting it on the November ballot for a vote of the people, taking control away from the voters in the decision about electing a parish president and giving it to special interests in the form of an oligarchy is removing a large chunk of our checks and balances from our government. I want to vote for a parish president in an election. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders, and I apologize again for murdering your name. Our next speaker is in support. It's Mr. Jeremy Epps.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. I'm here on behalf of A Better Ascension. My name is Jeremy Epps. I live in Prairieville, Louisiana. A Better Ascension's proposal streamlines the process and ensures proper accountability measures are put into place. It is very similar to how most major businesses and the Ascension Parish School Board runs. The Board of Directors and/or School Board sets the vision for the parish and the major goals the CEO or the superintendent must carry out and accomplish. Here, the council will set the vision and the parish manager will implement it in a non-partisan manner. Our parish government would benefit from having a true professional leading the parish because the head of the parish is a very technical position, just like the superintendent of Ascension Parish Schools. The head of the parish needs specific technical skills to run the parish effectively and efficiently. Where do we build roads? How do we improve drainage? What type of technologies are needed to make government more effective? These are all questions that are best answered by a person with the right credentials, education, and experience. This is why the council manager governments now account for 48.6% of all municipalities with populations of at least 2,500. That's up from 36.5% of governments 20 years ago. And the results show in 2011, a study by IBM Global Business Services found that professionally managed cities are nearly 10% more efficient than those without professional managers. Also, 73% of communities reorganized with the all-converted All-American City Award between 2008 and 2012 are run by professional local government managers. Thank you. We ask that you please allow us to go to citizens to vote.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. Let's see, we're on red, I believe. If I mess this up, someone please don't scream at me, but correct me, please. Our next speaker against is Mr. Mike Latale. Or is it Latale? Latale. I do it every time, don't I? Welcome this evening, Mike.
Good evening. My name is Mike Latale. I live in Prairieville. I'm standing before you as just a humble citizen. I'd like to commend ABA for coming together as a group and trying to find a solution to what problems that faces. What puzzles me is they came across a solution to take away my vote as opposed to trying to fix the system we already have. We have these three branches of government in place because they work. Flawed as they may be, they still work, but you have to work to fix it. Changing the system, I think, is a bad idea. I'm also standing before you as a Desert Storm veteran, so you know where my heart is. Do not take away my right to vote. I sweat and I bled for it, and I'll do it again if I have to. I don't want to, but I will. To the rest of the citizens, we all deserve the right to vote. We all deserve to have our rights regardless. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mr. Latchley. And also, sir, thank you for your service. All right, moving to the green, we have Mr. Vance Daigle.
Good evening. My name is Vance Daigle. I live in Prairieville. I'm actually a neighbor of Doc Satterley. I don't think we've ever met, but I am a neighbor, and I'm up here tonight as a board member to ABA, but I'm here tonight to speak to the council and the people of Ascension. I want to tell the council that, you know, you went to everyone during this election and asked those people to trust you and give you their vote. And it was an election, and they voted, and our council was elected. Now I think it's incumbent upon the council to have a unanimous decision to allow the people to vote on the type of government we want. It's just something that should be. We should be able to vote on that, and I think it should be unanimous by the council, because to not vote for it it shows me that perhaps you don't trust the people that elected you. I'll say that by allowing the people to vote, by all the council, you're not endorsing this project. You're just allowing the people to vote. People don't like to be told anything. They like to have a say in what's going to happen in the government. And we all deserve to have a say. And the first thing is to be able to vote for this type of government we want to run ourselves with. If the voters agree with the opposition, then it'll be defeated. And if the voters agree, then it'll pass. So I think it's very important that the council that asked everyone for their vote trust their citizens to allow them to vote. And again, I can't see any way but it being a unanimous decision for the council to allow that. The voters trusted you and elected you. Now you have the responsibility to return that. I think if that happens when it comes to vote, that as an ABA, I think that the people have seen enough of what we have, and I think they're gonna elect a new government. I think that it's a good plan that we've put forth that's gonna pass. But it's important to me that the council allows that to happen. More than anything, allow that first step to happen. And that's what I think we're here about tonight, is the first step for the council to unanimously pass it, to go to the vote of all the people of Ascension. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I've never done this. This is the first time that I've come up in front of anyone. I've never done anything political. I don't think I know any of the council members. It's not what I care for. I just like to work in Ascension and go home to Prairieville. But this is very, very important. We've been through a lot as Ascension residents, and this is a chance for the parish to step up. All of these councilmen allow these people to vote on how they want to move forward with their government. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Daigle. Our next speaker this afternoon, back to the red color, is Mr. Jeff Pettit.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Pettit. I live between Gonzales and Geismar off of Cornerview. A Better Ascension. This is nothing more than a dark money PAC masquerading as a nonprofit. They're funding this effort to abolish not just the parish presidency, but our entire home rule charter. Until A Better Ascension discloses the source of its funding, enough funding, by the way, to hire Labby's Political Action Committee manager. He manages 5 PACs for him, Labby, Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, and also another political operative as its spokesman. Both seasoned, competent, and very expensive people. They don't work for free. Where'd the money come from? This is a complete teardown of our founding governmental documents, and it must not be allowed on the ballot without due diligence. We need to know where this money is coming from. And most of it, well, I can't say most of it. I would assume some from inside the parish, some from outside the parish, maybe some from out of state. I don't know. None of us know who is funding this. Another question that comes to mind is how much money is a Better Ascension prepared to throw at an election where the voter turnout is likely to be very low? Care to guess what voter turnout was the last time Ascension's charter was targeted for amendment? 4.5%, the voter turnout. This is from the Secretary of State's website. It was May 1st, 2010. There were 8 amendments on the ballot. And while we're on the subject of elections and dark money, how much money will it take for the corporate interest behind this takeover to affect and potentially buy 6 council seats and complete the corporate takeover of Ascension Parish and disenfranchise us as voters? Thank you.
Okay, speaking in support tonight on the green, Mr. Brandon Trosclair.
Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Brandon Trosclair. I've been raised, and reside in Ascension Parish. I live in the Galvez area of Ascension Parish. I'd like to start and conclude tonight's speech that I have prepared from one of my favorite U.S. presidents, Ronald Reagan. And years ago, he says, "The status quo, is Latin for the mess that we're in," end quote. Folks, we are at an important time in our parish where we can either rise up above the politics and the good old boy system, or we can stay with a status quo for the last 24 years since we've been in the parish charter as a parish president, and that's a mess. I can speak all night about roads, drainage, infrastructure, and so much more, but for me, as a citizen, it's ultimately about 3 things: qualified leadership, efficient government, and accountability. Being a small business owner in Ascension Parish and employ over 200 individuals, I can tell you that the most important thing is leadership. People want to be led, and when they are, more often than not, they will do the right thing and work harder for you. With Ascension Parish government employing over 400 people in the parish, leadership is a big deal. That's why Better Ascension has included such important guidelines as minimum qualifications in our charter amendment, such as a Master's in Business Administration or a Master's in Public Administration, and also at least 5 years in a government or state agency. Must have a rolling 3-year plan. Must meet all the state ethics boards training and additional training, ethics training that we required in the contract. I want to end my speech, like I said, with Ronald Reagan, is there are no constraints on the human mind, no walls around the human spirit, and no barrier to our progress except the ones that we erect ourselves. I'd like for the council to please put this on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trosclair. Our next speaker is against, on the red side, Mr. Benny Besson.
Good evening. My name is Benny Besson. I reside in District 5, Dempsey Lambert's district. I'm against this. I don't want to give up my right to vote. You could promise me the moon, I still wouldn't give up my right to vote. It's pretty much, for me, it's cut and dry. Would you yield your vote to the President of the United States, to Congress?
Pardon me, Mr. Besson. Hang on, let's get the clock set.
Would you allow Congress to vote for your President of the United States? I wouldn't do that here either. So I'm against, and I would say no to the ballot.
Thank you, Mr. Besson. On the green side of the aisle, speaking in support of ABA, is Mr. Russell Graham.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Russell Graham. I live out in Geismar, Gonzales address, by the way. I'm here tonight to speak on my behalf. I don't speak for ABA, but I am in full support of a better ascension. First off, I want to publicly commend these guys for putting themselves out there and coming up with a plan. You know, there's a lot of people who fight against the plan, and a lot of people who just say no. They're screaming no from the rooftops without actually having an alternate. Let's have a conversation has been my big goal for months now. This was brought to me back last fall. I have talked for years about the fact that this system doesn't work and we need to do something. And I don't know anyone I've talked to that's disagreed with me. The system is broken, it needs to be fixed. So what do we do? Well, when they brought this to me, I said I would love to support you, depending on how things go. So we started talking, and I'm happy to say that I was involved with them and talking to them about the process and moving forward. I researched all across the country. I've lived around the country. I've lived in Maryland. I've lived in Georgia. I've lived in California, Texas, and Arizona, all while serving in the U.S. Army. I truly, truly believe in the right to vote. I fought for that right and believe in it. I have a son who's 22 years old and has in his third year in the Navy, so that's not lost on me. Speaking of all those places I lived in, one of the places I lived in was Evans, Georgia. It was back there after September 11th. I was mobilized and sent to Evans, Georgia, 2002, 2003. I remember how well things were run there, and it seemed like there was a plan for everything. It was incredible living there. So when I started researching and saw the type of government they had, I reached out to the commissioner, Mr. Ryan Cross, had a very good conversation with him, and he recommended that I call Scott Johnson. So I contacted Scott Johnson and had a conversation with him. I was truly impressed with his professionalism and what he had to say. It was incredible. I was so excited to talk to him and to hear all of the plans that they had made over the years put into place and how well the system worked. From the relationship with Mr. Johnson and his board of commissioners, Mr. Cross's belief in Mr. Johnson, and they all told me how quickly, if Mr. Johnson didn't do a good job, that they could simply fire him. So I truly believe in this.
That's a remote control.
The big thing is this system's proven across this country. I know that people keep bringing up what about the sheriff's office or the city of Gonzales. Well, the answer is if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. Those things aren't broken. Our parish is. My entire adult life I've watched this system. It's been pretty terrible. I was a junior in high school when they first implemented this system that we're living under, and it's been pretty bad that whole time. So I'll close. I know the time was kind of messed up there, so I'll finish up real quick here. We have a lot of people quoting, so I'll end this with Albert Einstein's definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's what we've been doing for 24 years now. It's time to change this thing and make it better. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Graham. And just for the record, that's one of my favorite quotes. I believe I've said it at these meetings of this deliberative body more than once. Not saying I agree with you, but I want the public to know at this point we are out of green cards. So I'm not stacking the deck or anything, but the next 9 or 10 speakers are all going to speak against it. For want of a better way, as I said, I just alternated. I guess I could have went 2 or 3 reds and then a green or something to make it balance toward the end, but it wasn't my intention one way or another. But so we'll proceed at this point with red cards. Mr. Bill Landry, speaking against.
Mr. Landry, I'm not good at working this thing. I'm going to keep it on my iPad.
Let me make a comment about that. And I guess going forward, let's and thank you, Mr. Lawler, for that. We're having technical difficulties with the clock. That might be an argument why we might need secretaries back here. So if you yet to speak, and I apologize for those that have spoken, and you're not seeing that clock go down from 3, 259, 258, okay? You can just have to, again, trust Mr. Lawler, he's keeping accurate time. Would the remaining speakers like to know when they're halfway through or anything like that? No? Okay, so we're just going to do it. Okay,
Thank you.
but
I'll try to read fast. I have a prepared
All
statement.
right, you have a full 3 minutes right now.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bill Landry. I'm a lifelong resident of Ascension Parish. I had the privilege of serving the city of Gonzales for 16 years as the elected chief of police, and I retired after 35 years service. I find it hard to fathom that a group of individuals would approach you with the idea of eliminating the parish president in exchange for a manager type of government. I take offense that this group questions my ability to choose a candidate of my choice in any election. The general reply I get is that it will eliminate politics of an election for parish president and put forward a qualified candidate. To this I say BS. Let's take it a step further. You talk about qualifications of an elected position. What qualities did each of you possess when you prepared yourself as a candidate for parish council? I would think the task you face that many of you have been ill prepared. If you don't best represent the voters in your respective districts, you too will be replaced. But let the voters decide, not one group. What if the same proposal included the elimination of one council position from being elected and let a 5-member board decide who to appoint to represent Ascension Parish? It would be this group that would then appoint their own representative in your position. You might laugh, but what's to stop it from happening? The moment you eliminate one problem, another appears, like in police work. The moment you eliminate the worst criminal, the next one becomes the next worst. If you eliminate the position of parish president, the next position may be parish council. Just because there's ill favor in the position of the current parish president doesn't give you the right to remove the vote of each and every citizen to vote for the candidate of his or her choice. There are avenues in place that are cause for removal. If you dislike the president that much, then I suggest you get on the bandwagon and have him recalled. After all, you publicly gave him a vote of no confidence. The opponents say you had the right to vote, but only once for that position. That one time you approve or deny to allow us to continue to vote. If a battery is bad in your car, you don't buy a new vehicle, you change the battery. Just like in public office. It's important to realize that the voting public is not an ignorant public. If that's the case, I feel a certain position of parish president will then be in the hands of someone else. When I left office in December of 2008, I left office with an 83% positive rating. I can assure you that if in my first term of office I would have failed to fulfill my duties as your elected police chief, I would have been replaced because I won my first election with a 4-vote margin. I had a term, 3 additional terms with no opposition.
That's 3 minutes.
Sir, can we get you to summarize? Your 3
Yes,
minutes
sir.
is up. I apologize for the timing and you're not been able to
Have
see that.
faith in the electors' vote to have the ability to make a qualified choice. I never considered myself a politician, but rather a good public official who was a fair and honest man. I would think that if we all put our efforts into being good public officials with fair and honest intentions, rather than getting caught up in the desire of a select group, we would all be better off. Thank you very much.
And we thank you, Mr. Landry, and also for your previous service as police chief of, well, did I get that right, of Gonzales? A little change of plans again, so some housekeeping. We had a last-minute green card just submitted just moments ago while Mr. Landry was speaking, so we'll go back to green at least one time. And that speaker is Mr. Jean Lavadali. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be very brief. I'm here to, because I do want the change, and I think that the voters, the people of Ascension should be able to vote on it. When I met most of you in the group against corruption not long ago, one of the first things that I said to Councilman Lawler is that I think that revisions to the charter are necessary. I think that in this particular case, we need them. I think that whether it was proposed by ABA, and I'm a Republican, by the way, and I'm for it, or if it was proposed by somebody else, I would still support it. And the reason why is because I've seen this system work. It might be new here in Louisiana, but it's not new in many other states. I was a city attorney for many cities in Georgia after Katrina. We were forced to move to Georgia, where I was an attorney there too. And this system works. So I think that it is a good system, and that's why I support it. And we heard about this system here today, and I think people are going to have to hear about this system to determine whether or not they will choose the system for Ascension Parish, and they should be able to make that choice themselves. I know that some of you agree with me and have voiced their concerns for the problems in the system that we have today. Councilman Satterley, you expressed your concerns about the problems that you had with the parish president at many of these meetings, and how the council could not, even if the parish president approved, if he appointed somebody that you guys maybe didn't approve, there was nothing that you could do about it. Under this system, the people would get to choose the councilman, just like they do today. And the council would have the power to remove the city manager if he was not doing his job. So I think that people still have that vote. It's different, but it's still there. And I think that this system works because it's somebody who knows what he's supposed to do, who is good at his job, and it's not about politics. And that's why I support this. When you get politics involved in things like this, a lot of times the system doesn't work. And we have seen that it has not worked for us in the last few years. And I think that you should promote.
Can you sum up, John?
Yes, I think that you should promote people in Ascension Parish online and outside meetings, the discussion about this new system so that they can learn about it and make a determination when they have to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, speaking against the ABA proposal, is Mr. Scott Sheets.
Good evening. My name is Scott Sheets. I reside in Prairieville. I'd first like to take issue with comment made that people want to be led. I have a son in the Marine Corps and two other children that do very well in academics and everything else because they've been taught to be leaders and not followers. I don't want my kids following anybody. They don't have to be led by anybody. So now I'll get through with some of the redundancy that comes through my speech that y'all heard. I'd like to begin my reasoning against ABA's proposal by stating my belief this council is dysfunctional and has been for a while. The council has ducked and dodged public opinion with regard to infrastructure development and bogus traffic studies. It is responsible for the state of the parish today. To expect people to bequeath their vote for the parish leader to this council is brazen at best. I open with this observation to make this point. 6 council members is all it takes that is required to move forward an agenda under this proposal. Though we the people have not been enlightened as to who is monetarily backing ABA's proposal, we the people realize money is the lifeblood of political ambition. Do you, the council members, doubt 6 elections couldn't be advanced by big money backing candidates willing to push forward a nefarious agenda? Do you doubt big money is financing this corporate takeover by ABA? How do we even begin to consider this proposal without transparency with regard to ABA's contributors? Why would a corporate entity such as Cajun Industries be so interested in this change in government as to be rumored as making sizable donations to ABA in its effort to assert the people's ability to elect their leaders? Why would we, the people, entrust our vote to any organization, much less a dysfunctional council? This isn't an attack on any single council member, but on this and future councils as a whole. The elimination of corruption as the basis for a council manager system is simply pretentious. Instances of corruption in council manager systems are easily exposed with a cursory Google search. Most of these instances are the result of a direct lack of transparency and the council manager's ability to manipulate policy favoring other agendas, not unlike the agenda of a PAC such as ABA. What is ABA's agenda? I don't know. What I do know is their lack of transparency leaves us ignorant of their motives. Maybe a corporate takeover of the parish government? I don't know. I encourage each of you to examine the points made by the public. Ask yourselves where the money backing this is coming from, and could that money finance the successful elections of 6 councilmen, especially those who run unopposed in their districts? Could that money influence any current council member? There seems to be a lot of questions as to how a council manager system would be less corrupt.
Scott, can you sum up, sir?
Yes, sir, I'm done. I'm just.
Thank you.
At least with an elected official and the ability to ferret out corruption and demand transparency by media such as Pelican Post, we the people are not oppressed in our power to hold elected officials accountable. And in full disclosure, I did all the research myself. I was not handed a pamphlet and told to go do my homework and spread the word. Thank you for your time.
And thank you, Mr. Sheep. Before we call the next speaker, I have a bit of a dilemma here, and I really wish I'm not in this situation. Let me state that before I make a judgment. I guess that's why I'm paid the big bucks. We've had a couple more people that want to speak. I will make the following observations, and then I would turn it over to the wisdom of this group and see what we're going to do. Everybody knows that, sort of like the public comment period's not closed, but the previous item was the time to come sign in, public sign-in period, and we're now into the actual agenda item. That's number one. Number two, if I deny speakers yet, people are going to say, well, this person wanted to speak for or against. I would note that I'm on record to talk about the Committee of the Whole, which has been established by our chairman, and there are 3 more opportunities for the speakers who might be denied tonight. I'm looking right now at the clock, and it's pushing 8 o'clock. And ladies and gentlemen, we haven't even gotten to question and answering. And so this meeting might go 3 hours longer. I'm acutely aware. Mr. Johnson has called me this evening before. I'm very pleased that he attended. But I did I'm glad we actually, frankly, pulled the other item off the agenda, that he may not be able to make the whole thing. And I've told him if he can't, or anyone else, I'll need to leave, whatever, to go ahead and do so. There's going to be, more opportunities. This is for discussion only. So now the dilemma is this. Do we just keep adding as people get up and say they still want to talk? And do we say card laid is a card played? The chair will entertain comments, not from the public, but from my fellow committee members. Mr. Johnson.
Since we've already started, our typical policy what we do with these is when the agenda item's there, we stop taking cards. If I recall it correctly, I think we're at a point to where we can probably stop taking cards and give them one last time. You want to come up and do it now, and
I can live with that, Mr. Lawler.
That's all I was going to say. I'd make a motion that we open it up for 30 seconds, so run up here if you want to turn in a card. You have to literally run, ma'am.
Is that what you were saying,
yeah.
Benny?
I mean,
yeah.
One more shot.
Okay, I'm not going to ask, we're not that formal tonight. We said we're going to have no action items, so I'm not going to ask for a motion or vote. But it seems to be the pleasure of the entire dais tonight, a rare event. So keep them coming, folks, I guess. And Benny, again, you're welcome to stay all night, brother, or you can leave, and anybody can. And we don't need it tomorrow in the newspapers or Facebook or anything and say, I mean, everybody's already given 2 hours of their time to this. And it's going to clearly go probably, I'm looking at maybe 10 more speakers now that we've just added 4 more.
The reason I made it a motion is that I would now make a motion to close it.
Right. Well,
Shut it off.
we're just going to allow it, okay, because it's academic one way or another, and because it's going to pass. And I don't want to do any action items tonight. This is all about discussion. So we're not going to suppress any voices. But please, speak now relative to filling out your card, or not forever hold your peace. Come to Mr. Lawler's meeting, okay, on the West Bank. Or perhaps, I don't know, I guess in a minute we'll be asking questions to all the speakers. I believe originally it was advertised that ABA themselves are going to hold 3 or 4 public meetings, although I've been told that that's not necessarily the case anymore. I don't know, but we're going to find out. So we'll go back to alternating colors momentarily. And everybody's happy with that. We have a green speaker in support, Mr. Dan Ramsey. Excuse me, it's Don. Handwriting problem. Don, I apologize.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. It is actually Don. And I am a resident of Prairieville, Louisiana, have been for many, many years, and my family's been here for a long time. I am one of the ABA board members, and I would like to start about a statement what this is not about. This is not about any current, former, or future parish president. What it is about change. And change is not easy. As someone once said, change only occurs when the pain of not changing is greater than the pain of taking action to change. I was skeptical when I first heard of a better ascension. I didn't know everyone involved, and the concept was new to me. But what I did, and I hope everyone will do, is research and ask questions. You may or may not come to the same conclusion that I did, but do your research. Don't listen to the rhetoric out there. This change of government has proven to take politics out of the daily operations of communities where it's been implemented. In the amendments we propose, the parish manager would not be allowed to involve himself or herself in partisan politics. He or she won't be able to campaign for or against council members or his own political agenda. The parish manager has one job, that is to administer the services of the people. Do his job. He doesn't have to campaign every 4 years for his job. If he fails at his job, he gets fired by the council. The amendment also requires the parish manager to complete additional mandatory ethics requirements and participate in professional development. We believe this is important because we want to ensure the parish manager abides by all ethics laws on the books. I would like to end on a quote by Dr. Joshua Stockley, a political science professor at ULM who's very involved in Louisiana political and government analysis. He said, and I quote, "City or county managers tend to be more, if you will, certified managers, individuals who have been trained in public administration. They are less political, more administrative, and the argument is that this produces a better form or level of expertise in government. I think we must have an effective leader with experience and credentials. And I ask the council, give the people a choice to vote. That's all we ask."
And I thank you, Don, Mr. Ramsey. Speaking for the red against is Ms. Teresa Robert.
Teresa Robert. I'm a mother, a grandmother, a resident of Ascension Parish. Most of you in here, or many of you, know who I am, and I've certainly come to the parish council and the police jury and participated in the process for 35 to 40 years. And I just did not intend on speaking, but I have got to stand up and speak. In almost 40 years of coming to public meetings, I have never seen anything like what Mr. Lawler did to Ms. Gilbert. Questioning her representation.
No, sir, please do not interrupt the speaker. At the end of her talk.
I can make a point of order.
You do not have the floor. I'm the chairman of this meeting, and I will call it to order. I will recognize you for a comment when she's done. Ms. Robert, please proceed.
Questioning her
Excuse me, Mr. Lawler.
right to represent a constituency that voted that organization in. Questioning how they voted it. Questioning and then making a judgment on it is above and beyond. Talk about an insult to injury to citizens of this parish. And that is exactly why many citizens are here tonight, to stand up for our right to vote for our representatives. Yes, there have been many mistakes in the voting of our representatives, and yes, our parish is in trouble, and we've got a lot of problems. And I'm here to stand opposed to
Point of order,
telling...
Chairman.
Mr. Lawler, please stop interrupting the public speaking. Sir.
A point of order is allowed.
With all due respect, I am the chairman and I have ruled on it.
Then I move to appeal.
For you to move to appeal, you have to be recognized for the chair to speak.
Point
I
of
have
order
not,
can move.
Sir, I do not wish to make this a contest. Now, we haven't interrupted any other speaker. I believe Ms. Robert, like every speaker, is entitled to speak her full 3 minutes. And I would direct you, sir.
Point.
I would suggest you, I will decide what's on point. If you want to do that in your committee, and I encourage you to do so, of the whole, as well as the Transportation Committee Chairman, please do so, sir. Okay? Now, please don't interrupt our speaker on either side.
I made a
Again,
point of order, and I'm appealing to the full
the chair does not recognize you as being in order, sir, and I would ask you to cease and desist. Ms. Robert, continue, please.
I was going on record opposing removing the
That's at
parish
my discretion.
president election and appointing a parish president. That's what my proposal was. And I do not we are not here tonight. We are all members of this parish. We all live here together. We all have our families, our children and our grandchildren in the future of this parish. And it is at the heart of everything. And I just really hope that people don't take this personal. This is something that, as some of these men have stood here tonight and voted for our freedom to have representation elected by the people, we want you just to remember that.
Ms. Robert, please address the council.
So
Thank you.
again, I would just like, I'm not going to take up any more time. And again, thank you for your time, and I just want to end in that.
Thank you, Ms. Robert. We have a green speaker next. William Carrick, maybe? Mr. Carrick?
William Damon Carrick. I was raised in Sorrento, Louisiana, now I live in Santa Monica. Don't have a prepared statement. I'm just not that smart. Certainly not a good old boy. I couldn't even get my friend Terrence Irvin to help me locate a multi-million-dollar business in the city of Gonzales, so I don't think I'm connected too well. A couple points I'd like to make is I dispel the notion that you have to be from Ascension Parish to know what's best for Ascension Parish. And I say that because my dad moved here about 60 years ago, married a little girl from Sorrento, and built a business that's now 54 years old, and he has poured sweat from one end of this parish to the other with his business. And I hope that we always keep an open mind to have people like that move in and build successful businesses. I don't think this is about corruption. I know exactly the parish presidents we've had in the past. I know some of the great men. To me, this is about a set of hash marks that measures something that we can manage instead of manipulate. I'd like to thank Doc for putting this on the agenda. Brave move, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I respect everybody on either side of this argument. However, I don't see this as taking away our right to vote, because there's, just like we heard earlier, Mr. Latchley and other veterans fought for that right. My notion of takeaway is you take away something, you don't get anything back. What we're doing here is perhaps taking away that right to vote, but replacing that right to vote with a set of criteria to get more of a non-popularity contest in our parish. End of the day, I voted for Clint too. You know, I voted for that change well. Clint and I never even shaken hands. But I listened to what he had to say back then, and I thought he was a better candidate. I appreciate Ms. Robert's passion, but I'm a Republican, and certainly that group does not represent my thought process tonight. So I would encourage the council to at least put this on the ballot. We have several months to discuss it, and let the people decide. Thanks, and with respect.
And the chair thanks you, sir, Mr. Carrick. Thanks you for your speech, not for voting for Clint. Just to set the record straight. Our next speaker will be speaking against, on the red side, would be Mr. Lou Guppolt.
My name is Luke Uphold. I do live in the Brittany area of Gonzales. And speaking against, I have only one thing to get across. That is that oligarchies are a very bad system of government. In fact, if you look at national politics, you'll see far left tend to, like extreme communism as an example, tend to end up being ruled by a group of people, oligarchies. Far right, extreme fascists, Mussolini's government, Hitler's, they tend to be ruled by a small group. Well, what we have with A Better Ascension is a rule by a smaller group. 6 councilmen and a new council parish manager who is selected by a small group, the 10 most wealthy businesses or something to that effect in Ascension Parish. So where is that parish manager's loyalty going to reside? I'm afraid it's going to reside with those who appointed him. Certainly the 6 councilmen, and who elects those 6 councilmen. Well, I hope it's not big money, but that's apparently what the A Better Ascension is saying. They want to pick representatives from the 10 largest businesses in Ascension. What about the Joe Schmo who just has a little small shop? Well, he's not counted. Only the 10 biggest businesses, Ascension Parish, Chamber of Commerce, and so forth. It's basically, we are taking away our privilege, Joe's privilege to vote for a parish president, and putting it in the hands of a small group that nominates the parish officer, the parish manager. Sounds like a very bad idea. So before, where all the people could vote for a parish president, now an unelected committee of influential people will nominate the folks for the parish officer. It's basically, no offense intended, an oligarchy. Extreme left and extreme right wing end up being ruled by an oligarchy. We really don't want to have that in Ascension Parish. Talking about corruption, it's going to make corruption all the worse. That's all. Oligarchies are a very bad idea.
Thank you, Lou. Our next speaker is on the red side also. Once again, we're out of green cards. Mr. Jean LeBlanc. You changed your mind, Mr. LeBlanc? You've changed your mind. You don't wish to speak, sir? Okay, I'm going to destroy your card because we have to keep this for the record. I have 2 cards, but this one's Jeannie LeBlanc. Is that your wife? Ms. LeBlanc, you want to speak? So you don't desire to speak either? Okay, for the record, I'm going to destroy. Oh, okay, that's a new wrinkle, and thanks, Lou, for pointing that out. Our old cards didn't have this, so I'm not going to destroy it. I'm going to unwrinkle your card and put it back into the record. What you're saying is I don't, the 2 LeBlancs, I assume your husband and wife, maybe that's asking things I shouldn't. You're against it, you just don't want to publicly say so. And let the record show that Councilman Johnson has removed the wrinkled up sheet that I'll turn into the secretaries for part of the public record. Our next, I assume person against it and going to speak, is Ernest, is it Opperman, Mr. Opperman?
I appreciate the time to come up here and just speak for a minute. I'm not going to take very long. My name's Ernest Hopperman. Most people know me by Joe. We've been here for, I guess 48 years or so in the parish now, and I've seen quite a bit of the meetings throughout the years and stuff. And what they're talking about here, Mr. Scott Johnson from this other place, and it works with what they've got over there. I guess a lot of people here in Ascension Parish have seen things don't work exactly how you want it to work. And we still want the right to vote. I've voted since I was 18 years old. My father impressed that on me, that this is your chance to make something change. So I've always liked that desire to go, and I give up a lot of time that I would rather be up in the woods hunting or out fishing to make sure I vote when it's got to be on the Saturdays or whatever. But that's our right. I've always felt it, and that's how I go out. And a lot of times my vote doesn't make a difference. The other side's got more votes. That's the way it goes. But I want people to know that this is something, if we don't have the right to vote, y'all talking about 6 council members can make the change. It's not 6, it's only 4. 4 people can make the choice, and the other 2 could go against them, and they don't have the right to overvote. In my mind, if you got 6 people voting, if 4 say yeah and 2 say no, that the 4 will rule. Now, I don't know. Maybe that's not how it's to be. But I was just hearing people saying earlier that there's 6 that will be, scheduled to do whatever, can fire, hire, or whatever. And I just think that if, you got 6 and 4 say yes, 2 say no, it's to go with 4. That's all I just wanted to say is they got the right to vote, I got the right to vote, and that's what I want, is my right. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Opperman. Our next speaker on the red side against is Mr. Todd Acosta.
Thank y'all gentlemen for listening to everyone tonight. We got family and friends on both sides. Weigh it both ways. We've been accused of being Facebook, Twitter trolls, and such, both sides, by councilmen's wives, by people on their side, people on our side. Many people have asked questions, though, towards ABA on their site specifics, on their Facebook specifics, and little or none of their questions that I know of or I've answered or asked have been answered whatsoever, 0. So the question I asked was, yes, these people do live in Ascension Parish. Why didn't they take this through their councilman and go through the committee and go by the policies and procedures that y'all have in place, the parish has in place currently, to propose this? Why hasn't any of those members, with the exception of Brian Malonzo, which knows the struggles of every council person up there, come out and publicly stated why they haven't ran for a seat, your seat, their seat, Ms. Casso's seat, and changed the system from within? I feel that it's the same backdoor, stab you in the back politics that we always have, and that's been around forever, and that we're getting pushed from behind into something that none of the councilmen brought forward, and that I know of. None of the councilmen sponsored, not a council-sponsored committee sponsored it, brought it forward through committees, through commissions, whatsoever. So I just ask that if you're going to give the people the right to vote, let's do that. It's the only thing we can do, and let the people stand up and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Buster. On the red side, Miss Mary Lee. Oh, I got to start looking for those check marks. Yes, ma'am, I apologize. So let the record show that you're against it, but you chose not to publicly speak. I will eventually get used to these new changes. This one wants to speak. Robert Lee, maybe?
Thank you, Councilman, President. Mine is short. I'd like to take the opportunity to speak to the council, the public that are here and watching. I've been thinking some about the things that happened in our parish. There are several things that may not seem to relate to each other, but I'd like to mention, thank you again for the time to speak at this council. God's word says the person does not righteous is not of God, and that sin is a reproach to any nation. Going from parish president to manager will not remove sin, but asking forgiveness and repenting of all unrighteousness, asking Jesus come into our lives will. King David committed an awful sin when he repented, God forgave him, and he continued to keep his place as king of Israel. A person incarnated are of no benefit to society, but a new man in Jesus Christ is. Forgiveness is godly. Things and money are temporal. They're not worth going to hell for. I want to see my parish president we voted in to repent, ask God's forgiveness, and stay president. What good for our parish is good? What is good for our parish is to get rid of sin, not people. I don't want any voting privileges taken away for myself or for others. And there are some things I would like the council to consider. One of the things that our community is better to get alcohol beverages out of drugstores, grocery stores, restaurants, and quick stops away from our children. I thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Our last and final speaker, and I guess it's like they say, save the best to last. I don't know. I've seen this gentleman speak before. I just admire him as a person. Charlie Stevens. Charlie, did you stay with us, or did you? Glad you're still here. And it's red against.
My name is Charlie Stevens. I live at 1128 Stevenson Road, and I've been there for 80 years. I've been around a long time. You know, something penetrated my mind. I've heard so many times tonight about changing the charter form of government. But I'm waiting for a specific reason why we should change our charter form of government. Let me say this. I happened to work 8 years, the first 8 years of that charter form of government. My first assignment was to develop a human resource department and then develop a health and social service department. I cannot stand here tonight and say I had a problem with our form of government that I could not do my work, and it was not in the best interest of our parish. Now, I want to know, is there something with the organization or structure of the charter form of government? Is there something wrong with the execution and the implementation of our government? Think about it. The execution, implementation is done by one body. You telling me, and you talk about the corruption in our government, we talk about the sin in our government. I refuse to believe that the solution to sin is new political strategies or a new form of government. The only answer to sin is the righteousness of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. See, the righteousness of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ can remove the sin out of our government. And I believe he can heal our government. I will not stay in here tonight. I stayed in education in Ascension Parish for almost 40 years. I will not stay in here tonight and say because we had one situation. And the best way to solve that situation is that you're going to eliminate all these fine young people that we have in our parish. You never be president of Ascension Parish again. You know what? I just think that's a psychological figumentation of the imagination. It doesn't make sense. I think, let me close on this. I think the chances, if you changing this form of government, solving our present problem, your chances of doing it about as great as someone straightening the deck chair on the Titanic.
Thank you, Charlie. Mr. Stevens. Okay, that concludes the public comment period, and as I said, what we will do now is have question and answer. So we'll start with the three spokesperson individuals, and I'll ask all three of them to please come back up to the microphone to field Q&A from the council. Hopefully everybody in that regard is still here, and then if need be, we'll go further, deeper into it, talking with the general members of the public. So that would be you, Mr. Johnson, Clint, yourself, and Catherine. Please step forward. As chairman, I'll go ahead and start off, and while the rest of the potential speakers are coming back up, and then as we typically do in this committee and all committees, we'll let the other councilmen have a round, and then we'll go again until we exhaust, I guess, the Q&A. My intention, by the way, is not to stay here all night, trust me. It was date night. My wife is here tonight. I'd like to recognize that, and so I've already disappointed her because all the restaurants will be closed. But it's, you know, there's something to be said about a Spam sandwich, I guess. I would like to start with this, and I don't know who to give authorship to because there were so many, and I could look back at my notes and do that, but that would just waste time. I've taken a look at the A Better Ascension mission statement that's on their website under the tab About Us. It's very brief, so I'm going to read it, and then I want to make some comments about that organization because there's a full admission right there what they're all about. It says A Better Ascension is a 501c4 organization created by a group of citizens and business leaders in Ascension Parish who believe we can do better. We believe our parish government needs a professional leader who can establish long-term plans and address our infrastructure, economic, and governmental issues by implementing a parish manager style of government, and I emphasize that word because it's in all bowls on their site. Our parish government will become more efficient and effective. Plus, we believe this style of government will break up the good old boy system. We've heard a lot of that speakers use that term tonight, and usher in a new level of accountability, and so we ask you to join us. I think the thing that comes to my mind right off the bat is that in that first sentence, it says they're 501c4. So to satisfy my curiosity, being a former college professor, I, of course, do what everybody does. Go to Google, take a look, and see what it has to say. And again, Mr. Johnson, I apologize if you're not prepared to answer this question, but I guess any member of the board could come up here and welcome to do that. Seems like every member of the board eventually did speak. It's an article published by Moyer's Company by a Teresa Raleigh, 2012 article. It's entitled, What Do You Really Need to Know About 501c4 Corporations? And it's about 4 pages long, so I'm just going to read 2 or 3 little excerpts and then ask the questions about that are concerning to me. It says it's not the first time, because it's been around, little setup, for over 100 years. It actually started with the Tariff Act of the United States legislation in 1913. So what are these organizations all about? Long before we even knew, I guess, what a PAC was. They were designed for mostly for groups that said that we're going to do some charitable things and we're going to do some great things for the community also, and we really don't have a political agenda. I will just tell you, without going through the whole history, that's morphed into, though, a situation where if you declare you won, you literally have to prove to the IRS so that you don't have to disclose your donors and so forth, and that you're a nonprofit, that more than 50% of the income you collect for your organization will go to non-political issues, and the residual would go toward whatever political agendas you wish to produce. Good examples of these types of groups are the NAACP. So that's a respectable organization. The Sierra Club, Blue Cross Blue Shield, etc. But there's some bad groups as well. But this is what Ms. Riley concluded. Between 2006 and 2010 election cycles, this is nationally, the Center for Responsive Politics researcher Spencer McCall found that, quote, groups that do not disclose their donors rose in our country from 1% of all spending by outside groups to a whopping 47%. And that sort of runs up a flag to me, and I'm kind of wondering, so why? Unlike a political action committee, the author concludes, or even a 527 corp in IRS parlance, a 501c4 are not required to report donors to the FEC or to the IRS and to the public in general. In fact, the IRS defines the 501c4 organization as one who is a social welfare organization as, quote, primarily engaged in promoting some way of the common good and general welfare of a community. And as noted previously, this has been interpreted to mean that as long as they spend less than half of their resources, both time and money, on political activities, they are playing by the IRS's intended rules. I heard the term tonight, dark money. That's a direct reference to the fact that because you're 501c4, ABA, you don't have to disclose your donors. Now, what I read further from the IRS, individuals who have given you money they're allowed, thank God, it's still America, but it's up to the board to decide if they ever will or not. So I'm going to ask the first question this way. Are you a political action committee? And if you're not a PAC and you say you legitimately are a 501c4 for the reasons I just discussed, will you ever disclose who your donors are? What have they given you? When did they give it to you? How much? And really, what are your plans to do with this money beyond, I keep hearing about you're here to educate the public. Who from ABA would like to answer that question? No one? Mr. Johnson, your turn.
Right now, I don't have any questions.
Mr. Lawler?
I guess it's not so much of a question, but my understanding that the request of this ABA group is that we look at this, and I think it's really to the council, not whether or not we support their position, but whether or not we think that people should be allowed to vote on it. And I find my difficulty is that I don't know if it's right to say, I want to preserve your right to vote by telling you you don't have the right to vote. And I think that raises a pretty logical issue there. How do you tell somebody they have the right to vote by denying them the right to vote? And I trust the people will make the best decision on this. And I think there's a lot of confusion on that issue, because I've had several people call me and tell me, well, I'm absolutely against this thing. I said, I understand that, but do you want to be able to vote on it? Well, absolutely. And I think that's the issue. And I see people nodding. I think there's a lot of confusion here. And I think there's a lot of confusion. I mean, we're here to get educated on this tonight. I didn't think we were going over tax structures and that sort of thing. But apparently we are. I guess, this came up earlier, and the reason I asked Ms. Goppold about the voting there, because I don't want a group to come up here and simply state, I represent the Democrats of Baton Rouge or Ascension Parish, so give me 10 minutes, more than anybody else gets. Or they say, I represent the Libertarian Party, give me 10 minutes. My issue is, show me that you actually represent that party, because you all could have come up here, right? You all could have said, I represent so-and-so group. Give me 10 minutes. Now, you couldn't have all given Doc the questions ahead of time, as was done. We didn't get those questions ahead of time. At least I didn't. But I know Doc got them ahead of time. I don't know how that works.
Excuse me?
You have them right here. You have the questions from RPEC. You're looking at
Yes,
them right now. You have RPEC written on them.
Ms. Gupple gave me that. What are you
Ahead of time.
insinuating?
That's what I'm saying, ahead of time.
So did ABA have an
I'm
opportunity
speaking.
to do that?
I am speaking.
You are correct, Mr.
I was also correct on the point of order.
And
That's a whole nother issue.
no, I don't apologize for that. I apologize for interrupting you, but I will have a rebuttal.
Oh, Jesus. The problem is, and I know y'all don't think this is a major issue, but for somebody to come up and represent an organization and not having taken a vote of that organization, that's problematic to me, because that involves integrity. And there are laws on the books, open meeting laws, that we have to abide by. In this council has to abide by those meetings, and we do. And as an elected official with the Ascension Republican Party, that group has to abide by open meetings laws. And when you have a meeting over the phone and you ask people whether or not they support something, they may or may not know that that is a vote, but that violates open meeting laws. That's the problem that I have with this. I don't have a position on the ABA's proposal, but I want to make sure that we do things the right way. I want to make sure that every single person in here gets a fair shake. And if somebody is getting 7 minutes longer than somebody else because of a misrepresentation, that's not fair to anybody.
Are you done, Mr.?
No, I'd like you to keep order in your council. But
That's why I'm asking you, are you done?
no, I'm not done. And no, I'm not going to recuse myself because I haven't taken a position on the ABA's request to put this on the ballot yet, as some others have. I haven't taken a position on their agenda. And it's a shame when people don't look at the facts. And part of the problem that we have right now is we have people not looking at the facts and what is being asked and making rash decisions. This is an opportunity to better our parish through dialogue, through discussing with each other. This may come down to, hey, you know what? This is not a good idea. Let's not do it. And that's perfectly fine with me. But it may also bring out new ideas, how we can make our parish better. But if we can't have a civil and legitimate conversation on this, we've got a serious problem in this parish. So we need to have a civil and legitimate conversation, not name-calling, not accusations. Let's get to the facts of the matter. Let's do this right. That's all the questions I have right now.
Thank you. Ms. Gupple, would you please approach? I've captured some notes from what Mr. Lawler just said, and it seems to me he has accused you as the leader of the RPEC, and I'm going to quote it, as not having taken a legitimate vote. And your response is?
We took a vote. You can ask the members. I asked them, do you have an opinion on a better Ascension? If you have an opinion, would you support it or oppose it?
Mm-hmm. And you did that with, I assume you guys have a board?
I called every member.
Okay, thank you. Number two, Mr. Lawler says, and I quote, that your organization has violated open meetings law. Are you a PAC?
Yes, we are considered by the state a political action
And
committee.
I'm going to get to that in a minute in terms of your filing of financial documents and all, unlike what I just tried to find out from the 401c3 organization. But he said that you violated open meetings laws. Are you bound by open meetings law?
No, we're not.
So,
But we do have open meetings, and the public is welcome to come.
in the past, have you voted sometimes at the meeting and sometimes not at the meeting by calling people up?
Yes, sir.
So what you're saying to us tonight in this committee is that's not atypical for your organization?
No, it's not.
Thank you. A final thing that Mr. Lawler said, is there something wrong, I can't read my own handwriting, with having a position beforehand like some council members, and I would have to guess that's directed to me, so I'll fight my own battles. I would have to say this. I don't know what's wrong with anybody. We're all Americans in this room for having an opinion beforehand. I would submit it'd be good to be open-minded, because that's why we're doing this. That maybe tonight, someone that was on the red side would turn green. Someone who's on the green side would turn red. So I also resent if that accusation was directed toward me. Yes, I have blogged heavily. I don't never, everybody that knows me, hide my feelings on an issue, period. And you could readily read about me at Doc Sadley's website on Facebook. Okay? So I just don't understand that comment as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and do round two, and I guess that means it's my turn. Please stay there, Ms. Gupple. You have lodged lots of questions. And by the way, for the record, I don't think it matters whether or not I got it earlier or the Pope got it earlier. It was handed out to every member here, and you specifically said, and I can read it again if people need to hear it, that my questions are in bold. And I would ask you to answer them. All too often I find, however, not in just the case of Ms. Guppolt, but many others, that they ask questions, they speak, and then we go on and we slap the gavel and no one ever addresses the questions. That's not going to happen here tonight if we have to stay to midnight. You said, why did a Better Ascension, so the best one to answer that is ABA, register as a 501c4 organization, not a political action committee? You also said, why is it because they do not disclose who has given them money in their organization under being a 501c4? And you accuse them then of being, unlike your organization, not transparent if they're indeed a PAC. I have just told everybody what my understanding is of a 501c4 and why they're forming and what's happening, and that just like these management government systems, which apparently are taking over the world from what I can hear, sounds like so are 501c4s. The question becomes, just like the management system, is that a good or a bad thing? But I can tell you this, if it took us, having been introduced over 100 years ago in 1913, 100 and some odd years to get where we are now, it's a little troubling to me. So I'm going to ask the same questions Ms. Gupple had again. Is anybody here tonight to speak about disclosure of your donors, how much, when did they do it, so forth and so on? And in that regard, as a candidate, and these gentlemen sitting next to me and the rest of your elected council, we have to do what's called financial disclosure statements. Personally, I mean, you can go look and see if I own Apple stock or not, and what bonds I hold, and so forth and so on. You can see what mom and pop or whatever gave me what amount of money at any given time. Ms. Gupple, do you have to do that for the RPAC?
Yes, we have.
And do you have to say what you spent the money on?
Yes, sir. Activity is either money received by contributions, there's also in kind, and also expenditures are on that report.
Okay, from ABA's side, any information would be helpful about who your donors are and when and so forth. Any board member, whoever wants, I'm going to put you on the spot because maybe you wouldn't know that, Mr. Johnson. Obviously, you came down here not as a hired gun. You've made that clear. That was another one of my questions, and I've got some more for you individually later. But board member maybe want to answer?
I'll step in and just say what I know. I mean, as of right now, nothing's going to vote. It's in front of the council. So at the time when it possibly, hopefully, you guys let the people vote, we will have to then form a true PAC and disclose who those people supporting the portion to go to election. Right now, we are simply gathering information, writing a document, and educating people.
Okay, Jeremy, I'm glad you said that because I didn't want to disclose it, but I will now. David Mitchell called me during the week to write the piece he wrote in The Advocate, and he said that you guys had said that it's your intention to eventually not be educational anymore and become a PAC. So I'd have to ask you now, why don't you just be a PAC? And
if this would,
if that's going to be the stripes that are on the tiger, I'm just asking a question.
Open discussion.
Why not right now? And how's that going to work with the 51% money and all that kind of stuff? How are you going to convince the IRS and everybody that it was spent legitimately?
I'm not a financial, I don't mean to answer.
Well, thank you for answering. Question number, I don't know where it is, 3 or 4 from Ms. Gupple. Why are we only, she asked, getting rid of a parish president, and I'm going to combine 3 questions in one, Catherine, if you don't mind, because it goes on, as opposed to not looking to support qualified candidates for this office? And I don't know if you're asking the council, because I can't answer that, but I'm going to say you're asking ABA again. Does anybody want to answer that? Why are we only looking at getting rid of the parish council? And as we heard from many speakers tonight, the problem ain't just. Parish president, and not looking to support qualified candidates for the office. As we heard tonight, a lot of people don't believe that the parish president, even though he's indicted right now for criminal activity, is the problem. The problem is in this council. And I accept responsibility for that because I'm part of that team. It doesn't hurt my feelings because frankly, I believe the people are right. There is some dysfunction amongst this council. So how do you answer, Jeremy?
I would just have to say, I don't believe this is about it's not about our current parish president, who fortunately isn't here tonight, but this system, I mean, when does it work? We adopted a Follett plan from the last major drainage program that never, it finally got finished, but it took what?
Why didn't it work? Because of the people.
So the parish president's
Excuse me,
office has
Jeremy.
been broken.
Mr. McConnell is over there saying, please come to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
Because it's not getting to the
Okay.
people at home.
I'm sorry. So I believe that the system is broken. I mean, we haven't had, I can look back when Seven Oaks was developed in 91, okay? And that was the start of the boom. Some people try to say it was Katrina. That would have given us 16 years to start planning. That's not about our current parish president, guys, ladies and gentlemen. That's years and years and years, different administrations after different administrations, and we're not getting anywhere. That's
Okay.
what this is about.
Okay, yeah, thank you for your answer. Next question I heard, and it's in front of all of us. Why is this group not considered term limits in their changes that they're suggesting in the charter? Anyone? Yes. You cannot ask this question to me because, Jeremy, I'd like to answer it in y'all's behalf, but I can't. I don't know why you didn't.
You know, Doc, listen, is our document perfect? Probably not. I would love to see term limits. That maybe as we get through these public meetings, that's something that we can all be open to, and that's something we can put in it.
I would say this to you, I don't mind it morphing, but it ought to be pretty darn perfect if you're going to send it to us, which was sent to me and all members from your board. I would hope you thought on it really, really, really carefully, and I believe that to be at least a legitimate question deserving answering. Next one, please stay where you are. Why has a better Ascension not asked the council to convene a charter commission to consider these changes? And I'd like to set this one up by saying, in the conversation I had earlier today with the gentleman to my right, to your left, as you're facing us, Councilman Johnson, I'm not going to put words in his mouth. He can deny it. I think it's something he would support, and quite frankly, I would definitely consider that myself. In other words, why didn't you guys go instead of the council and lobby to put something right away on the ballot? And I use that word lobbying in quotes because we could argue all night long on whether or not you're educational or you're a PAC. But why didn't you go directly and say, let's convene a charter commission? Are you open to that idea?
Truthfully, I don't know how to answer that. I'm not sure how those rules work. We put together a document and submitted it to the council.
Did you want to jump
For
in?
the council to get reviewed.
Yeah, and I from my perspective and what I see with this is for such a large change to this document that is our governing document, how we operate. The way we've done it, when I first took office, we put a charter commission together that addressed certain changes, as was alluded to earlier this evening, which I believe all of those changes proposed that came out of that charter commission were voted down. But that's the avenue we have to change that document. And so to present something that's wholly changed without being properly vetted, if you will, through that type of a function it lends to some questions.
So so we would have to, you guys would call the charter commission, or we would call
It's
a charter
something that the
commission?
council does, yes.
So we've submitted a document. Do you not now call a charter commission?
That is the potential, but that's, from my understanding, that's not what was asked of us. What was asked of us was to put this on the ballot for a vote.
Okay.
And so that's the difference in it. And
we gave you guys a document. I think you're the governing body to determine in which direction that goes.
That's correct, we are. And I think at the end of the day, that's what's going to wind up happening. If we either decide we can take no action on it whatsoever, depending on what the will of the council is, or we can create a charter commission and push it that way, or we can go ahead and straight up vote whether or not we're going to put it on the ballot or not, right?
Right.
That's our purview, and that's what we were elected to do. Myself, personally, like Doc said, I'm leaning more towards this thing going to a charter commission and having it run through that way. That way the public has more opportunity to comment on this document and potentially make changes to it or recommendation of changes to that commission. And what comes out of that commission to us would be whether or not, It could be a myriad of things, whether they recommend any type of changes to it, to the charter or not, or whether certain changes are made, and it'll be up to the council at that point in time whether to adopt that to be put on the ballot for election, for vote.
And I might add, Jeremy, and with all due respect, okay, I know you're a good guy. I know all your board pretty much is a good
A lot
guy.
of people aren't saying that, but okay.
Well, you won't hear it from me. And I may be disagreeing with you vehemently.
Right, that's right.
But I
We're
don't
all
got
done
nothing
to do
against
that.
you personally. I appreciate it when you ran for office and you didn't make it, but that's another story. What Benny had to say, again, this really, Jeremy and the rest of the board, I'm speaking to you, puts me on a big spot. Maybe you care, maybe you don't, but, you know, I have repeatedly said since I have served in this council, now into my second term, because I do believe all the speakers that said it tonight, your right to vote is sacrosanct. So therefore, if I vote against putting this on the ballot, which is directly what you're asking, and not going through this intermediate step that Councilman Johnson and I may wind up supporting if it goes that way, whatever, you are forcing me not to be a hypocrite by saying, no, I'm not going to let you vote, and saying to my people, regardless of whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, and other, that I don't respect that, and I do. Okay? And if you notice from the, I don't post on it, but the number of times I've liked people that said that, yeah, that's probably going to happen if I'm forced. But I hope and pray I'm not. Because I don't think it's the correct procedural way to go. I'll just go on record. I think you could go the other way. I mean, it took what? Not overnight. I mean, we only know about this thing a matter of a few weeks. And there was a rush, believe it or not, to try to get it on the November, the November ballot. In order to do that, we'd have to by our next meeting. And I'm so glad that we have a committee of the whole on top of mine. But I was first at the altar, truth be known. I said, dude, we at least need to look at this in strategic planning. I didn't ask anybody's permission. As chair, I just set it in the agenda. I fully expected, by the way, and I'm very pleased to report, I didn't get any resistance on that. Got resistance on the next issue, and we pulled it off the agenda. But so, you know, so you're being heard, and that's a real positive, good democratic thing. But again, it's tough to vote against the people's right to vote. That's an unbeatable argument. You know, even at the risk of being labeled a rhino by the RPEC or anything. I stood tall on that. If you're aware of my record, I was against lots of tax issues. But did I vote against, what was it called? Lanes for Change? Better, thank you, Aaron, Recreation Now? No, I voted for the right of the people to do that.
That's right.
And I don't know if y'all premeditated thought about that, but you really do put me in a real compromised situation because I do feel obviously strongly against it. Number 7, has the frustration, I call this one the corruption issue, never let a crisis go to waste. We know that one, don't we? Has the frustration, Ms. Guppold writes, of the public and shadow cast on our parish over the indictment of our current parish president given rise to an effort to usurp the authority of the council and change the charter to do away with the office of parish president? And your answer is?
Repeat that again, please.
Are you guys just seizing Corporate Diem the opportunity because we have a
I've
president
already
that's in
answered
trouble
that.
with the
I
law?
made that kind of clear that, I mean, we've had issues in this.
Has nothing to
parish.
do with this.
It has
So
absolutely
right now, as a member of your
100%
board,
nothing to do
for the
with
future
current
meetings,
parish
we can
president.
dispose with the idea that
Has
one side has to come up
100%
with how many
nothing to do
times a
with the
parish
parish
president's got in trouble and how many times a parish manager's got in trouble. Because on my site, I put
nothing to do with our
Volusia, I
current
put Eagles Pass,
parish
Texas, I put Killeen,
Nothing to
I
do
put
with our
Bell,
current parish
California.
president. We've
These are
said
all
that time
examples
over
of
time.
corruptions of parish county managers, because there's no parishes outside Louisiana.
It has nothing to do with our current parish president.
I'm going to recognize, even though I still have the floor, Mr. Johnson.
I mean, he's answered the question, and that's all I wanted to
Okay,
say.
okay.
I'm not,
Number 8, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Yeah, we're trying to get out of here. Does this not take away a vote of the people to choose the administration and president? You will fully admit that it doesn't do that.
My opinion, it is not. My opinion.
Because
is-
we've heard other people tonight testify, it replaces that right.
You gonna let me answer?
Yeah,
Doc?
yeah, go, I'm sorry.
In my personal opinion, it
Right.
does not.
Okay.
I don't believe that every Joe in Ascension Parish, when they've got an issue with their ditch, their grass growing, whatever it is, are picking up the phone and calling their parish president. They should be picking up the phone, they should be calling Mr. Lawler.
What's
Mr.
that have to do
Saturn.
with my right to vote? I would
Excuse me?
pick up the phone. What does it have to do with my right to vote?
Your right to vote.
There's some people that won't do that, I will fully admit. There are people not in this courtroom tonight.
That's my opinion. My opinion is
Okay.
I feel I have more,
And I accept that.
I have more of a voice in my local
Yeah, I'm going
councilman
to
than I
accept
should
it,
in my
and
parish
I'm going to
president.
respect your opinion. Number 9, was it not 8 members of the present council who endorsed the indicted president? And the comment on that is, you know, if that's the case, can they be trusted? We've heard it over and over again tonight to go ahead and make this appointment as opposed to let the people decide by virtue of their vote. Which you said is not being taken away.
If this were to go to a ballot, when would this take effect? 2020, correct?
That's the next time.
The
this
council
change.
has an election in 2019?
Yeah.
So this current council would not elect, if the form of government would come to ballot, this current council sitting would not hire a parish manager.
I don't know. I mean, everybody takes office the first. That depends on how it's set up. Legally, I can't answer that question. I do know that if you were going to have a parish manager in place, the day one that the parish president is out of office, then more than likely they would, because we're still going to be seated,
have to
right?
probably look at
So
a legal
I mean, I'm
perspective on that.
I'm
Right.
not 100% sure.
I'm
I'm
with
just
you. I'm not a
basically
lawyer
saying,
either, but-
right, if the parish president's out of office on January 2nd or whatever that day is, everybody changes over at that point in time, so you would want that, I assume you probably want that administrator in place on that day, but I don't know that.
I would
mean,
think we would be implementing, because we would know the outcome, so we would be implementing a new form of government. Hopefully, we would be searching, and then when the new council, in my opinion, I would hope when the new council would be hired, they would make that ultimate decision.
Yeah, let me finish my last question, then we're going to do round 2 for the council. And I'm sorry, I just see hands up, but this ain't like my professor days with a class. I really can't bring you back up here unless a council member has a question for you. And maybe I will, but I don't know. I can't recognize a lot of people by their hands. My last comment, and we're going to have Mr. Lawler speak next in round 2. Section 3.01, as pointed out by the Pelican Post, talks about in Article 3 of the Homeroom Charter Parish Manager, and I'm going to quote what you guys are seeking. It will now, in a parish manager, require the appointee to hold a master's degree in either public administration or business administration with at least 5 years' experience in governmental administration at a managerial or executive level. And I'm going to direct my comment directly to the master's degree. How many members of the elected collective 11 district councilmen, our deliberative body, have master's degrees?
I have no idea. Couldn't tell you. But I think the person running a $140 million plus budget and managing.
if one does-
You gonna let me finish again? A person managing a $140 million budget and over 400 employees, I just don't believe that's a person that can just come in off the street, be 18 years of age, and run for office and win an election. I mean, because he's popular. I think it needs to be a qualified person that understands those dynamics, just like Mr. Scott here tonight talked about.
I apologize for interrupting you, but on the other hand, I thought you had answered, Jeremy, when you said, I have no idea. So I just took that, and I'm trying to
I'm
save
sorry.
time, okay? So you don't know if one person, maybe we can keep this a yes or no without you can say what you want. If one person doesn't have a master's degree, are they qualified to serve on this council? If any one of us don't have one. I have one, by the way.
What does the council and a master's degree have to do with the
Well, you're
parish,
saying the leading
parish
executive-
manager that
Well, it has
would be
everything to do with-
would be required to have, yes, the parish
because he's
manager,
he
if this form of
replaced-
government were to go forward, would be required to have a master's degree. I'm sorry, I'm not understanding why
Okay,
the
now
council.
let me talk.
how
I'm
that
going to try to help you
defers to the
understand.
council.
Because if you're replacing the president, and by the way, even when he's running, was any requirement by law or anything, by a homeroom charter, that he has a master's degree, or
No,
she?
He could be 18 years old and qualify to run, and he can win a popularity contest based on
Would you
his
agree
management.
that's sort of what our country was built on? Our forefathers, for example, were farmers, were
I think our
mercantile
forefathers
people?
also
Let
wrote a
me speak
constitution.
now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay? Turnabout's fair play. It's a bitch, isn't it? Okay. Now, our forefathers weren't all like today attorneys. I will just say something about that, and I hope I don't offend any attorney in this room. Thank God.
You can't.
But we had farmers, we had mercantile, we had all kinds of people, all different educational backgrounds, all different levels of affluence, all different of everything. I find, frankly, and this is just me, it's my opinion, I'm entitled to it, this is rather elitist. I have a master's, I have a doctoral degree. You know what they say? I got a BS, I got an MS, I got a PhD, I need a J, I need a J, I need a J-O-B. All right? What are we going to do? Tell the other 10 members of this council who were elected by the people Did they have to have a college degree of advanced amount in order to serve? That's all I'm asking for an answer on, because that's what you guys are asking for.
We're asking the parish administrator who runs a $140 million budget. And Doc, I really love the educational deal. I thought this was a question and answer deal.
Okay, Mr. Lawler. Round 2.
I have a question for Mr. Daigle. Come on up. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, Doc asked a question that wasn't answered, and I'd like to, he kind of ran through this format that he has in front of him that was given by someone else perhaps, but you asked a question about, or made a statement about why we didn't turn over a perfect charter. And then you spoke about perhaps it should go through your committee. Do you think your committee would turn out a perfect charter? Let me finish. I would think not. But it's back to what I came up here for in the first place. It should go to a vote of the people. If it's a bad charter and if it's a bad proposition, it will fail. If it's good, it'll pass. But for you to think we would have a perfect charter, just as you guys would, nothing's perfect. But back to what I said, it's about the vote of the people, to vote whether they want this or not.
May I respond to that?
Please.
Well, I've got the
Mr.
table.
Daigle.
I've got the chair.
Well, I know, but he's asking that question to me. Are you not asking that?
No,
to
no,
me?
sir. I'm making a statement based upon a question that you asked.
Right.
So I'm entitled.
So if you're asking the question, it's not my stand.
I don't know if I can
say this
do with you.
My argument is not with APA's proposal per se, but it's with, as Mr. Johnson had indicated, and I think we're together, it sounds like on this, that the method that's being used is what's in question. I'm not even saying it's wrong. And that method might be the same method we used when we went from a police jury to a parish president, and now we're trying to reverse that. What did we do? Had lots of meetings, had a homeroom charter commission with a chairman and so forth, and they came up with the whole thing that we have that y'all are trying to amend. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's a big difference, a big, big difference in saying that my argument is what you say it is.
Sir, I can't quote you. I'm just not
I mean,
that bright a guy.
I just told you I'm going to vote for,
Right.
Let me just say it right now for the record, okay? If this issue is forced down Doc Sally's throat, I will vote for the right of the people to vote. Is that what everybody needs to hear?
I'm trying not
know
to.
it already?
I'm not up here to specifically address you. I'm up here to address everyone in the parish. And you were very clear, Doc. I paid attention, and you were very clear that we should have turned in a nearly perfect document. And I'm saying I don't know if there is such a thing. Whatever committee it goes through, but I will go back to what I first came up here and I didn't speak about the goods and the bads. I said vote. So I wanted to answer your question to say, if it's a bad document, it will be voted down. Dr. Satterley, I'm not speaking just to you. I'm speaking to the entire council and the entire parish. Understand, this is nothing personal with you.
Right.
I say if it's bad, it'll get voted down.
By the way, I do not want to develop that document, but I would trust the people in the Homeroom Charter Commission reconvene to do so. That's all I'm saying. Mr. Lawler.
I guess one of the questions I had, and I agree with a lot of what Doc said about the people have the right to vote. And that's the way I'm leaning, to give the people the right to vote. I mean, I agree with you on that.
Wow. Thank you, Aaron.
Has anybody with either side of this considered a sunset provision? And just in case you don't know what a sunset provision is, it says that this could go into effect, say, for 10 years. And I think 10 years would be long enough time to know if this thing would work. If it doesn't, it automatically, regardless, it automatically comes up for a vote in 10 years, and the people, again, have the right, either vote it up or vote it down. Just an idea. It's not really, it's more of a rhetorical question, just something to think about. I really don't have any questions.
Okay, that will conclude round 2, and so my turn on round 3 and see if we have further or maybe we can go home. This now addresses the comments made by the media during the week. Under Section 303, powers and duties of the parish manager shall have the power to appoint, discipline, and terminate any and all parish employees and department heads. Currently, the governing authority, of course, has the power to remove department heads, but only by favorable vote of at least 2/3 of its members. That's in Section 409. Also, at present, terminated employees have the right to appeal, something I'm trying to change in front of my strategic planning committee. Actually, it's beyond me. It's going to come to your ballot sooner or later by a 2/3 vote in terms of employee appeal. If the president, let's say, wants to fire someone and we have a vote, the law, I think, in there right now is flawed because it says it's 2/3 of the whole membership. And unfortunately, sometimes members are absent. Instead of having maybe 11, we might have 9. And so the person starts with 2 negative votes, and I'm trying to get the homeroom charter changed, which is our right, it's in the homeroom charter, to amend it, okay? Not the right of a PAC or a 501c4 organization, to where it will read 2/3 of the voting members. Because I've seen 2 employees already victimized in my tenure that started off with negative votes because the councilmen were absent those nights. So, the second part of that reads, establish the salary for each parish employee. The governing authority may fix the compensation currently in section 415 of it. So, people have talked about we're abdicating and giving up a great amount of our power into the hands of this parish manager. And in fact, it goes on, if you really read the whole thing that was published in the Pelican Post, to talk about 3 big positions would be eliminated. And I want to know if y'all believe that's true. I want to be sure that we get the correct read for the public's benefit. That would be the office of the Human Research Manager. I want to make a comment about that. That would be the office of a second in charge, that would be Ken Dawson, underneath the parish president. And who am I leaving out here? Finance Department, thank you. Now, we'll start with the Finance Department. They win awards every year by independent groups outside the parish. And then we're required by law to have them audited, which we do. We pay taxpayer dollars for that, the Falk and Winkler and like companies. And they get clean audits every year. I'm concerned that we would throw those babies out. I'm going to talk about all 3 of them with the bathwater, not just the parish president. Number 2, okay, this council just voted to ratify the second in charge. If we have confidence in them now, but we're not going to be able to do anything about that because that position is gone as well. And last but not least, human resources. We paid a lot of taxpayer dollars to have SSA consultants study efficiency and positions and what do we need and what's absent. The biggest glaring deficiency is a good HR person. In fact, the individual in that position was moved right before ratification. In my mind, that was to prevent that individual from being fired. Well, maybe not fired, but not ratified. What happens after that with this at-will business, I don't know. And that might be a card in your stead, right? But I do know this. We just had a meet and greet for Miss Talita Wesley, who I understand will begin her job Monday. At that meeting and greet was present myself, Mr. Lawler, Mr. Joseph, Ms. Cazzo, Bill Dawson. Am I leaving anybody else out? I think it was 5 of us, under quorum, okay? I was never so impressed in my life with the credentials of an individual, so I'm going to go way out on a limb because I really don't know her. But Ms. Talita is not only a person of color and a woman, and I want to address that in a minute with your board because it seems to me it's rather sterile. It's 11 white males, okay? She has 4 college degrees, something y'all interested in. 2 from Grambling, 2 from Southern. One of those degrees is a Juris Doctor. Might sound like Doc's arguing against himself a minute ago. He made a crack about attorneys. But she's telling me, you know what? More and more people are recognizing human resource management because of lawsuits and equal opportunity issues and these employee appeals I just told you about that I'm fixing. We need someone like that. I would hate to think we went on a national search, brought this young lady in here, only to see her fired immediately because she may or may not be the choice, or even the position may not even exist because it's not mentioned in this, you've admitted, imperfect document where you're asking us to change things. Again, I think that argues toward maybe letting the people sit down and take a deep breath and take a look at this. What say you, ABA?
If I could,
Yes.
I'm not an ABA member.
Hang on, come to the microphone, sir, and identify who you are again.
Russell Graham. Again, I'm not an ABA member, but I'm a very dear supporter. And I'll tell you, based on those questions, let me just tell you the research that I've done across this country is that professional county managers, county administrators come into the job and they evaluate everything. They don't come in and fire people. They're not axemen. They come in and do a good job to make sure that the people below them are doing a good job. So the lady you spoke of, if she's highly qualified and doing a good job when a parish manager would have come in, I could pretty much assure you that that person would come in and look at it from a professional standpoint and say, she's doing a great job, we're going to keep her intact, and we're going to run this human resources section the way that it's supposed to be run, professionally and competently.
Okay, but you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The thing that's missing here, though, is I'm not arguing about what might happen, because neither one of us are Nostradamus and don't have a crystal ball. All I'm saying is the current charter amendment you put forward eliminates that position. So I don't think you can stand up here tonight, frankly, or any member of your board and say that absolutely that person is going to be kept or not.
Okay, first off.
Not just the person, let me finish now.
Okay.
But the person's position. Remember, we paid SSA not to study people. They wanted to keep all that out of it, because we don't want to say Joe Blow's doing a bad job. We want to talk about their position.
Right.
And we paid money for that, and they've advised us. And they have clearly told us that we should have a national search, which they assisted in, bring someone in, and we have, and this charter amendment says that position's gone.
Well, I'll just say, I want to respond to your first part. It's not my ABA board. I'm not a member of the board, but I support them.
Well, I
like
apologize
said.
for that part, but you understand what I'm saying. Their
Secondly-
charter says that.
Secondly, if, let's fast forward to 2020, she's doing a great job. She has friends in the department. Someone else runs for parish president and wins and doesn't like the job she's doing. Can that parish president then come in and get rid of her?
Under our current
I think I've seen that
Our
happen
current
under
system,
the
he
current
could fire
system.
her, and then she could appeal it as I just described, and then it would come to us, and if I get my druthers at the polls, and I think the people have the
So we're
wisdom.
going back to ifs. This is.
No, this is going to be put on the ballot soon, and you're going to be able to vote. Right now, we have a rule. I think
Right.
the rule's a little bit unfair. I'm just trying to make it fairer than it is,
Right.
but there's an appeal process and everything.
Well, and the reason I bring this up, Doc, is because I've seen it firsthand, good people who work for this parish who've lost their jobs when a new parish president came in if they were on the wrong side of an election. So it happens. It happens currently, and the flawed system that currently exists allows it to happen.
Well, are you aware that the ABA, since you're not taking ownership of it, also says that, let's say they keep the position, but that person now serves just like at the parish president, it's an at-will state, at the discretion of that individual, the parish manager. And he says, you know what? I don't like you, Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Smith, because you pick your nose. You're fired. We have that right now.
Correct.
Please, if you want to be recognized, but you don't, I'm talking to this gentleman.
You're correct. That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further questions. The chair is done. Do we want to round? Anybody want to talk further, Mr. Johnson?
Sure, Ben.
Okay. With that, I'll move along to item number 6. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Law, that we adjourn. This committee is adjourned.